Welcome, everybody, to Crystal Bearers Episode 3. This is a Final Fantasy talk show. I am Droogle.
I'm right the Shoe Puff.
And I'm Easily.
And we are the Crystal Bearers, as are you. Right now, if you're watching live on twitch.tv/Droogle, or if you're watching an archive on YouTube or podcast services, we really appreciate you. I also want to bring in our very special guest this evening. We have Rare Gangster joining us.
Hi!
Hi! How you doing, Rare?
I'm fantastic. Very busy day, but I'm comfy, cozy, and that's what matters. And excited to talk all things Final Fantasy. If anyone doesn't know, I am a big Final Fantasy fan. I played every single one, and a lot of the side games. Grew up playing JRPGs, played more JRPGs than I got fingers, toes, and lady bits. So yeah, I'm really excited to be here and be discussing one of my favorite game series.
Yeah, I'll just say everybody go give Rare Gangster a follow over on her Twitch channel. I'm glad that we got you on tonight, and thank you so much for joining us, because we are going to be talking a lot about really the history of Final Fantasy tonight, because our topic of the month is going to be turn-based action combat, pit the two against each other, maybe debate what's better. I don't know where it's going to go, but we're just going to talk about the history of the franchise and how it's evolved from an action standpoint and where we want it to go. So that's going to be a big topic of the night, but also big welcome, of course, to Rise the Shoe Puff. Let's start with you.
Hi.
Hi, Shoop. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm stressed out because I'm moving soon. But other than that, I'm good. I'm having a good day. Rare's name is spelled Gangster for anybody who wants to give her a follow. Just
Oh, thank you.
Did I spell it wrong?
Is it mistyped?
Rare Gangster.
Gangster. I can fix that. I'll do that in a moment.
But yeah, no, I'm doing well. I've been making some good progress in Final Fantasy 16 and packing up my apartment to move in 2 weeks. And yeah, I slept most of the day, in all honesty. I've been on a new medication that makes me very tired, so I've been sleeping most of the day. I'll be fine in a week. But yeah, Easily, how are you?
I'm actually really good. I found out a couple hours before stream that I have been picked as one of the 3 runners for RPG Limit Break's Final Fantasy.
Hey!
It's basically a relay race. I'm one of 3 alongside Keeper BK and Pete Swanson. I'm not allowed to say when yet, but it's a lot.
That's exciting. Congratulations.
It's good.
That is awesome.
So between that and then Final Fantasy 16, I really want to carry on with 16, but I now know I need to practice more 9 again. So
yeah, we've all been playing a whole lot of Final Fantasy 16, but I know that you haven't, Rare. So we're not going to spoil anything. Don't worry, we're not going to spoil anything. But we are going to talk probably a good bit of Final Fantasy 16 tonight, and really our sort of high-level feelings on the game. We're not going to dive super deep into the story outside of like just vague circumstances, because everybody in chat, of course, we don't want to spoil it for any of you either. Which also, welcome everybody. Thank you for being here. And I also should say that you guys are already taking advantage of giving XP. Make sure to keep doing that. We have Twitch channel points redemptions for giving XP to any of the 3 main hosts, myself, Shoop, Easily, and then also there are some fun little activities you guys can take part in. One of the big ones that I really push you guys to take part in is the Moogle mailbox, where throughout the show you can submit your letters into the mailbox that we will get to at the end of the show, and we're going to try and get to as many of those as possible. Rare's going to be here for the whole show. It turns out originally you weren't going to be here for the whole show. Now you're going to be here for the whole show, and we're also going to be bringing on Chad Music for Jeopardy and Moogle mailbox. So we'll have a whole bunch of people here to be going through your questions, maybe concerns.
This month Easily made the Jeopardy board, so myself and Droogle will also be participating in Jeopardy.
This will be my first time. Yeah.
They haven't got a clue what's in it yet.
I'm nervous. I'm a little nervous. I feel like I've got like a lot to live up to, because I've been like the host of Jeopardy for a while now.
I'm scared that there's going to be an entire speedrunning category and all of us are going to be like, well.
Actually, not a single speedrun part.
Thank you.
Okay, good. Because
please no. I don't know if I could handle that. But before we jump into what we've been playing, us 3, because we've been playing a lot of 16, Rare doesn't have to be about Final Fantasy. What's the last month been like for you on Twitch? What are you playing? What are you enjoying?
So I do drinking games every Monday. That's my YouTube content. So I did a Pikmin 4 drinking game. Drink every time a Pikmin perishes, which I'm so good at every single game. You'd think wouldn't happen too much, but unfortunately, it happens quite a bit. I'm also doing Elden Ring Rune level 1s. Oh, that's me doing Elden Ring Rune level 1. I think this is probably me killing more gods. Very difficult boss.
I came prepared.
Yeah, wow, that's me. Well, that's me when I have my face on too. So anyway, yeah, so I do Elden Ring Rune level 1 runs. It's my first Rune level 1 run ever. I don't use any summons, ashes, parries, shields, no hope. Hope's not allowed, all that fun stuff. So that's mainly what I do. And then I do Pokemon Gangster Gold, which is a Pokemon ROM hack made by my community. It was made for my birthday. Features a lot of our community members, so I do that. But I do a lot of Pokemon on the side. I like to do Nuzlocke challenges, stuff like that.
I saw you've been doing some Diablo 4 as well. Am I right?
I did a Diablo drinking game. I'm a big Diablo fan, Diablo 3 in particular, and I love Diablo 4. It's been so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's great. I know a lot of people like Diablo's not their thing, or especially like unless you have like people to play with, but it's one of the best like couch co-op multiplayer games. So
I'm tempted to jump into that for the first time ever. I've never played a Diablo game, so yeah.
You and Shoop might love to play them together. They're really fun, especially if you have someone else to play them
or
with.
like a whole Crystal Bearers thing. We could get all three of us in Diablo together. That could be cool.
I've never played it, but I've peeked in on a few streams of people playing it, and I there's so much on the screen that I don't know what to look at.
It's a lot less chaotic than 3 was by all accounts, and I only did 3, absolutely. And I only really enjoyed it with other people.
Mm.
On my own, I was like, I don't see much point.
Rare, have you ever played Crystal Chronicles on the GameCube?
Have I played Crystal Chronicles on the GameCube?
Or the remaster?
I got my copy right now, along with my 4 Game Boy to GameCube connectors, 2 SPs, 2 big Game Boy Advances, in the hopes of getting a group to play with me IRL. Yes.
Oh, so
hey!
I own the Switch port, which is really bad. Speaking of Final Fantasy, the Crystal Chronicles Switch port is awful.
I heard,
you can only do dungeons with your friends. It's definitely was a huge letdown. But yeah, I'm a huge Crystal Chronicles fan.
That's a bummer.
Sing the opening song.
Because if we were to do it, obviously it would have to be the Switch port for us. So we would be a little.
Do the campaign in the Switch port. It's a bummer.
That's really bizarre.
It was a real disappointment at the time.
Well, let's jump into a little bit of Final Fantasy XVI conversation. I'm going to give chat heads up again. We're not spoiling 16. We're not going to jump super deep into spoilers. But I do want to get all of our high-level feelings on the game. We're all over 80% of the way in. I'm 86. Easily, you are how many percent?
76, I think.
And Shoop, you're 81.
We're all over. Yeah, I'm 81. We're all over 75%.
Yeah, we're in the final act of the game. For sure. We're all in the final act of the game. So we've got, a lot behind us and a lot to say about this game. I kind of want to go to Easily first. Easily, give me your high-level feelings on Final Fantasy 16, where you're at right now.
I want to say it would be, if I were to be simplifying it, top 5 of games I played in terms of Final Fantasy, but on the low end. It is a fantastic game, but it has a lot of drawbacks that I feel quite strongly towards, but obviously not going into yet. But overall, somewhere around 8.5 out of 10, I give it.
Somewhere around 8.5 out of 10.
Yeah, I think that's right.
We can start there. We're going to dive deeper. Shoop, high level feelings.
I mean, I'm kind of in agreement with Easily right now. However, I don't want to judge it until like I've completed the game.
Right.
I don't feel like it's fair for me to really like give it a score until I finish it. But where I've gotten so far, I'd say I'd give it an 8.5 or a 9, because there have been significant moments that have emotionally driven me and really made me feel things. But the reason why I wouldn't make it like a 10 right now is because there are some drawbacks or some points in the story that don't necessarily just feel slow for me. They feel, and please God, don't take this the wrong way, y'all, but there are parts in the story that feel meaningless. And I don't feel when you're building a narrative-driven experience that anything should necessarily feel meaningless. And at least put like something behind it that's like, oh, that's why we did that. or humor behind it, like some levity. And there have been moments where there was just no point of this is why.
Yeah, like why are we doing this?
Yeah, like why are we doing this?
Beyond just like a little bit more about side characters or the world. Like it got to a point for me where it's like, yeah, like I kind of feel like I know this already. I know this about the world.
I felt like I understood the world just fine at this point in time. Like I was probably about 60% of the way through or so, and like I understood the world just fine. And it wasn't necessarily world building for me. It was kind of just like it was a bit filler like.
Yeah, padding.
And I also just want to touch on that. I know, Rare, you haven't played 16, but I found it really ironic that one night when I was in extreme spoiler territory, that Rare's just like, yeah, shoot, go, shoot. And I'm like, why are you here?
Leave now.
I was like, Rare, have you played 16? She goes, no, I don't know what's going on, but this looks great. And I'm like, this is the biggest like spoiler point that I have reached.
I think
I know what was happening. Like, I know those summons, you know?
Okay.
I don't know what they're called because usually they change in all the Final Fantasy. Aeon summons.
They're icons in this one.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Icons.
Like,
yeah.
So I'm very familiar with, like, Titan and Ifrit, but I was just like, I have such a bad memory. I'm not going to lie. Like, I retain about 5 memories at any given moment.
I'm hoping when you do play it, you're going to be like, oh, I remember this cutscene, but I had no idea what was going on.
Because that is the thing. I mean, the big moments are hella big. Like some of the most epic, large in scale stuff that you're ever going to see in a video game. The game just oozes production value at certain moments. It's kind of wild how crazy it gets. But I think like what Shoop's talking about here is telling you like leave during certain moments for spoilers. But it's funny, like Shoop and I are at like the same exact point in the game, but we keep like going into each other's streams and we'll be like, you're safe to watch, or you're not safe to watch, because anytime we're safe to watch is because there's nothing really that important happening for sometimes 5-6 hours at a time where you're just doing.
Like oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say like, it's kind of side questy stuff, right? Which isn't a bad thing. Side quests aren't bad, but there are moments where it's like, you don't need to leave because none of these side quests really have any major importance to the overall narrative of this game. So don't feel like you need to leave right now, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
I do want to say though that like, as someone who plays, like I'm stuck in the late 90s, early 2000s. I wholeheartedly admit it. This is the first next gen console game that I have ever played. And I was definitely in awe. Like even the opening segments, which was released in the demo for 16, I've never seen anything like this. So for me, that is personally going to impact how I score this game in the end, because like this is it's like having a child for the first time. Like this is a huge moment for me in my gaming life. Like I've never seen anything like this.
Yeah.
Personally.
I mean, we talked about it in the last stream, and I'm going to echo some things I said last time. It's the first Final Fantasy game mainline in 7 years, right? There's a lot riding on that. Whenever these mainline games release, the expectations are through the roof. The hopes are through the roof because we've waited so long. We're so invested in this franchise. And I think for that reason, it's impossible not to go into these games without some sort of like preconceived idea of what we expect Final Fantasy to be, even though Final Fantasy is this ever evolving thing, and it's supposed to be. We talked about this on the last show. We don't want that to change. That's kind of what it's all about, right? But at the same time, I'm right where you guys are. Like I'm at like an 8.5. It's kind of funny that we're all in sort of like a similar range. That could totally change by the end, because I did hear the ending is just freaking fantastic. So I'm really excited to see if that changes my score a little bit, but I don't think I would rate it in my top 5 if I'm being honest right now. I think it probably just barely fall out of my top 5, probably at number 6, because for me, it is missing some of those core Final Fantasy things. And I hope this isn't too spoiler for you, Rare, but like it doesn't have, we talked about this a lot, Shoop, it doesn't have like status ailments really. You know what I mean? It doesn't have an upgrade system that is meaningful. None of the weapons have anything to them rather than higher number, it means good. You know what I mean? Like there's a little bit of a lack of RPG in this game that I was a little surprised by, if I'm being honest, because I went into it expecting it to be an action RPG, but it surprised me when I felt like God of War Ragnarok was more RPG than Final Fantasy 16. And
oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I wanted to kind of touch on like what you're saying about the crafting system, and I know I've probably been driving everyone mad during my playthrough comparing it to The Witcher 3, because The Witcher 3 is the only like action type game that I really, 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 really fell in love with when I played it. I'm obsessed with that game. It's in my top 5 games of all time. And I feel like in all the other Final Fantasies before this, there wasn't really a crafting system. You go to the store, you buy a sword. Some games you can make that sword into a better sword if you got the right items, just like synthesizing like in 9. But for the most part, you're buying things from a weapon shop and that's it. Whereas like in like The Witcher, you do need to go farm, for lack of better words, or hunt or search for certain crafting materials, right? And it's like they wanted to do crafting, but since it's like the same 3 or 4 materials throughout the entire game, and you just need a couple hundred of the same materials, it doesn't feel like a crafting system. It just feels like a store with like a little woolen blanket over it that was like, we tried to make it look like you're crafting something, but you're really not. You're just buying something.
And the hunts, a lot of the
agree with
hunts
that.
and things like that give you, like you said, so many of these random like magic ashes or things like this that have no real importance other than the
I
blur.
sold 600 of them.
Right. And that's the thing, right? Is if you didn't sell those, you literally get to a point where you have thousands of these items that are meaningless at this point. The economy doesn't mean anything in the game because nothing really has value except for orchestrions, which are songs you can play in the game. So it gets this really strange point by even like a quarter of the way through the game where I was like, what does money even matter in this game? What does gil even matter? Like, I don't know why I'm doing like the things that I'm collecting. I have hundreds of, I don't like, I'm going to be able to craft whatever I need. If you do the hunts, you're going to be able to craft whatever you need. As I said, a lot of things started to feel a little bit meaningless as you said, Shoop. I feel like I'm being a little too negative. So I want to kind of pivot for a moment here and just say like, I'm still like those high level moments, those epic moments deliver in such an amazing way. And I do really love the characters and the story in this game. And a lot of the side characters are incredibly strong as well. And it's been the driving force through this whole game where it's like, I definitely at no point was I ever like, I'm going to put this down. Like, I don't want to see the finish of this game because the characters are impactful enough on their own, right? Like, and that really is the heart of Final Fantasy for all of us, right? I think we all would agree that gameplay is important, combat's important, but when we tell somebody to play a Final Fantasy, usually it's because the story is amazing, the world's amazing, the characters are amazing, and this game does deliver on a lot of that when it's the main narrative and it's not like side quests.
We become attached to the world and its characters.
Yeah, without a doubt. I would say easily. Would you agree? Did you become attached?
I've become attached to certain things a lot, and then other things really not at all. I will say I agree with you with regards to the characters, because you look at certain characters, the game makes you immediately hate them. Immediately. And when something has happened that to do with that character, you feel happiness that it's happened despite it not being good. You
Sure.
actually experience the developers did fantastic in guiding you to feel certain feelings to certain characters, and it's what makes me want to keep going. It's the pure cinematic, the pure adrenaline of the fights, the characters in there. So I feel very attached to certain elements.
I can agree with that. Yeah, certain characters do fall a little flat. There are a few here and there that I'm like, I don't care about you. I'm gonna tap through your dialogue, which has happened more and more as I've gotten later in the game. I find myself kind of skimming through dialogue, which disappoints me. But I do appreciate that some of the side characters are very three-dimensional, very multifaceted in that they've got some good and some bad to them. Like some of them have done some bad stuff in their past, and I've been learning more about certain characters in that way, and I like that. I like having three-dimensional characters where it's like, I like this character, but ooh, that's not good what you did. I don't like that. That's an important element to this, and I think that they are evolving a lot in their storytelling within Final Fantasy series. I think they've kind of taken some inspiration, Game of Thrones being an obvious one, I do think, to a certain extent. And I think it's been in a large way for the better. I do think, like Shoop, I miss a little bit of the levity. I do miss a little bit of the cuteness. I think in the future, and I think we'll talk about that a lot during our topic of the month, and I think we'll talk about combat as well. I don't think we need to get into combat right now, since that is such an important part of action versus turn-based. So I think we can say that for later. But I miss I miss those lighter moments. I miss the cuteness. One of the things that we talked about a lot is the flan. That flan is so disgusting looking that it actually bothered me. I was like, no, it's a flan. It's supposed to be cute. It's got the names. The names are cute, but man, that thing's nasty looking. I don't like the way it looks.
The names are actually precious. I don't know if you guys, where have you played Final Fantasy? Have you played 15?
Yeah, I played them all since 16.
So do you remember in 15 how they named them like creme brulee and like little
Yeah.
yeah. So they kind of did that in 16 too, and I was like, this is what I've been waiting for. Like anytime you run into a flan, it's like, well, what was that one flan's name? Two Scoops.
Two Scoops. That was a cute one.
Two Scoops. Yeah. I was like, this is a little bit of the levity that we wanted because the game is very dark. The game is very serious, and. But it's been shown like a lot of Final Fantasy titles have dark themes to them, but they can still throw some levity in here and there. Yeah. And I think 16 was lacking that unless you really look at it through like a magnifying glass and you notice things like Two Scoops and stuff like that. But the game never straight up throws a little levity at you. You have to really look for it, and it's very minimal.
And I know, like, Rhea, I think your favorite is 6, right?
Yep.
And 6 is dark. Like that game has some dark moments. And I think if they were to remake it, it would really emphasize how dark those moments are. But 6, I laughed a ton when I was playing 6. There's tons of humorous and light moments, right?
The toilet.
Yeah, tons of jokes. I mean, even the villain, it's like such a good dichotomy. I don't know if are we spoiling?
Don't.
I wouldn't go too crazy.
I haven't played it yet.
Okay. I won't spoil, but even the villain, like he's a clown, you know, he has clown makeup, but the dichotomy between how silly and goofy he looks and acts contrasted with some of his more very serious messed up actions, it does make a great balance. And I know for some people that may be like tonally jarring, but I feel like 6 perfectly achieves like that balance of having like fun levity. A lot of the characters can be like really fun, lighthearted, and goofy, but also still having like when it is serious, it's taken seriously, you know?
Yeah, and I think like that's happened many times throughout the franchise. One I always bring up, and I'm not going to say specific because of spoilers, but in 7, there's a major moment, right? A depressing moment that happens. 10 minutes later, you're riding a snowboard. You know, like
yeah.
It's like but it worked. For some reason it worked. They were able to balance that tonal whiplash in a way that I never thought anything about it. I went back to being sad a moment later when I was supposed to be sad. So like when they said back when this game was first coming out that, you know, does the game have fishing? Does the game have a card game? Does the game have any mini games? They're like, no, it wouldn't work in this world. This world, they don't have fun in this world. Is basically what they said. And I was like, I don't know about that. Like, I think Blitzball is a perfect example of literally a creation of something for that reason. Like, this world is sad. This world is depressing.
You need an outlet.
You need an outlet. And like Blitzball in 10 was an outlet to escape from that sadness, that spiral of death. So I feel like it was always a little weird to me that if it felt like they were dodging it for a reason. And now that I've played the game for the most part, and I was, I wanted to go into it with an open mind, like, okay, maybe they had a reason they didn't want to incorporate any mini games or anything that would distract you from how somber and oppressive this world is. And I can't really say that I agree with them. I don't think that they had to do it this way. I think they could have made something work that would have been a nice distraction from the heaviness of this game.
Well, I think one of the big things that they did quite wrong, they skipped over the little moments of levity, like with the names. There is an area with hot springs that you fight bombs. Did any of you look at the name of the bombs?
I did. Bath bombs.
Exactly. So, it's a really nice, cute, funny touch.
That was cute, yeah.
But it's so easily skipped. There's nothing that says that's what they are. You just fight them and they're dead. But they could have had like a nice little animation of them appearing, and
Drew didn't notice Two Scoops until after Two Scoops was dead. I had to tell him the name of the bomb because it's not. There's so much. Also, you got to think about, like, and we'll talk about this in like action combat. But there's so much going on the screen that like their name and their HP bar is like the last thing you look at.
Oh yeah. Well, HP bar I'm looking at, but I'm definitely not looking at the name on top of it. I'm just so distracted by a million particle effects and it's a lot. That screen is very overwhelming sometimes, but I'm glad you pointed it out, because once you pointed it out, I was like, oh, that's cute, because he had two colors. He was kind of like purple and pink mixed together, like swirl. So I was like, oh, that's actually kind of cute, even though he's disgusting looking. That was kind of cute. So I don't want to drag on this for too long, because Rare hasn't played it, and I think we should jump into some other stories for tonight. Any final comments on like our high level feelings on 16 before we move on?
I feel like I know you said that you were like harping on a lot of the negative, but I feel like a lot of your criticisms reflected like what I've seen like from a lot of people, Droogle. So, and of course there's people that take it to like an extreme level where they're like, oh, this isn't a Final Fantasy because XYZ, blah, blah, blah. And if you like it, then like, you have zero taste, like whatever. Like, but I do feel like you can like appreciate a game and also criticize certain aspects of it and how it fits into like a series, the connective tissues. Like we all have Final Fantasies we all have Final Fantasies that didn't work for us, and I feel like that's perfectly normal, to have certain things that detract from it for you.
Yeah, what you said is I 100% agree with, and it echoes something that I said during one of my streams, so I'll say it again now, is when I was playing this game, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't in denial, honestly, because this franchise, this series means so much to me that has happened in the past. And the example of that is 12. I think everybody knows I'm not a big fan of 12. I'm not going to say why. Y'all know that I hate 12 to a certain extent, certain aspects of 12. But when I first played 12, everybody, I was on a college campus. We had a dorm with 6 people. All 5 guys I lived with hated 12. They all hated 12. And I was like, no, 12. What are you talking about? 12 is great. Like, what are you doing? Like, you guys got to give it a chance. Give it a chance. Because I honestly, I didn't want to admit to myself that I also was not really liking it. I wasn't liking it at all. I was like, I couldn't handle the fact that like my favorite series had delivered the first game that I was playing in the series that I wasn't totally head over heels in love with. And since then, I've kind of recognized like it's okay to be critical of something that we love. Like there's nothing wrong with that. Like like you said, not every game is going to hit for you. Not every aspect of every game is going to hit for you. A lot of this game hits for me. There are certain things that don't hit for me. It's certainly a game that is greater than the sum of its parts. Because as we were kind of seeing right now, if I break it down into certain areas, I kind of talking negative about all of them in different ways. But when I put it all together, this game's great. It's a great game. 8.5 is great. It's just barely out of my top 5. I'm so happy with most of it. So I feel like I'm being critical, but it's because I want to acknowledge that there are problems, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with acknowledging the problems that do exist in the game for me.
Oh, go ahead, easily.
Sorry, I was going to say, can I just acknowledge the fact that out of the 3 in Crystal Bearers, we've got one that dislikes 12, one that hasn't really played 12, and me. We actually have one of each, which is quite interesting.
Which is kind of perfect, but we're all friends. Like that's what Rare was saying about like, it's not a Final Fantasy. Well, yeah, it is, because guess what? It's called Final Fantasy. That's at the end of the day, like, what makes Final Fantasy a Final Fantasy? Well, it's called Final Fantasy. But
100% right. Yeah, I agree.
I had kind of an issue with 15. So for those of you who know me well enough, I really liked 15's gameplay. It was fun. I loved the bromance. I had no emotional connection whatsoever to the lead male and female protagonists. 0. I had there was no emotional impact in that game whatsoever. I just had fun playing it. I've never went to the extent of saying this isn't a Final Fantasy, but I did say that I love this as a game, but I don't love it as a Final Fantasy. And that's okay too. Like, it was fun. And I know a lot of people that harped on 15 big time, that they just absolutely hated it and refused to acknowledge it as one of the 15 children in the series. But like, I was like, whatever, this is fun. This is a cool game. And I played it when it first came out, and it was completely unfinished, but I still had fun. Yeah. It was completely unfinished, but I had fun. And will I put 15 in my top 5? No. Will I likely put 16 in my top 5? Yes. Because 16, as much as we criticize it tonight, again, this is my first experience with the next gen game. There have been elements, and I've paid very, very close attention to a lot of the world. Another thing that we joke about is that Drew, who's like the down-to-earth, balanced dude of the 3 of us, he's at like a normal amount of hours in the game. And this was when we were probably we were all about 30 to 40% in the game, right? So
Yeah.
Drew had like 25 maybe so hours in the game. I had like almost 40 because I talk so much and I have to like listen to every NPC conversation. And then Easily over here is like speedrunner galore, and he's like, I'm at like 18 hours, but we all have the same percentage in the game. I'm like, wow, look at all this living up to our names.
Yeah.
But I think 16 is going to be in my top 5. I really do.
Maybe it will scratch into there for me too by the end of it all. What I'll say is, I'm 70 hours of the way in, and it's kind of like reminds me of those days where it's like, oh, wait until you're 40 hours into Final Fantasy 13 when it opens up and things like that. It's like I really really like 16, but it shouldn't take 70 hours for me to start feeling like the game's no longer delivering 5 hours of filler in between epic set pieces. You know what I mean? So no matter what, I there's always going to be a part of me that is disappointed in certain aspects and certain moments of pacing within the game, but I'm not going to harp on that. Let's move on. I do want to get into our discussion of the month's big news in Final Fantasy. It's time for the level updates. Got some big news this month. Some really big news this month, and I know this. I'm pretty sure you're a Final Fantasy 14 player. Am I right, Rare?
Yes, I do play 14.
Were you excited at all about FanFest this past week?
Yeah, I didn't go, but I was really excited to hear back from everyone's experiences. It was a shame that a lot of people said, like security was off, like a lot of like accessibility, comfort, people with kids had a lot of problems. So that was a shame. Sorry, I looked at
the
chat.
big thing, of course, was the announcement of the next expansion coming in summer of 2024. It's going to be called Final Fantasy XIV Dawn Trail. We've got the trailer up for it on screen right now, and I'm getting good vibes from it. Shoop, do you get like some Besaid Final Fantasy X vibes from this, or is it just me?
No, I can definitely. It's something about the color of the water, and granted, like a lot of tropical beach water is blue, but it's something about it reminds me of Besaid. Yeah, I was looking at it and I was just like, this is very Final Fantasy X-esque. And I know a lot of people have been barding Yoshi P about like, put Blitzball in 14. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't done my research prior to tonight. I'm not sure if he confirmed or denied, but I have heard rumors that he denied Blitzball coming to this expansion.
I think you are correct. I do think that they said that Blitzball is not coming.
That's what I thought. Yeah, I wasn't entirely positive.
B in chat says though that Blitzball was originally announced for 14 back in Shadowbringers. Or is that Stormblood? That's probably Stormblood, right? They've got a weird way of abbreviating these games, which is the one I'm about to get to. I'm about to get to Stormblood. Rare, how far are you in 14?
Not far at all. I'm like level 35 or something.
Okay, so you're still a Realm Reborn then.
Yeah, very early.
Well, a Realm Reborn's incredibly long, so you could still put a ton into that game and only be on a Realm Reborn. That's by far the longest expansion, and I think a lot of people would agree it's a little padded, for sure.
Yeah,
it takes a long time.
Through. It's a bit of a slog sometimes.
It is. I would agree with that, but Heavensward was a big step up, especially when it comes to pacing. Music was a huge step up, and I'm really excited for Stormblood, which looks like the atmosphere is really going to appeal to me. And I think what I'm seeing here looks really appealing. Level cap is going to be raised to 100, and they expanded the free trial to now include Stormblood. So the whole meme of, included with Heavensward up to level whatever.
And they put Orlando Bloom in it.
And they put Orlando Bloom in it. Actually, that's just the main character of Final Fantasy XIV.
I know. I'm just Orlando Bloom is not actually in this. I'm sorry, false advertising.
But some of the biggest news out of this, big surprise, is that Final Fantasy XIV is officially coming to Xbox. That's kind of huge. Actually,
Took them a while.
It took them a long time to make this happen. They've been talking about this for years, literally years, which is why I'm still keeping my expectations a little bit low that like something could go wrong, because it was entirely on Xbox's end that this didn't happen. They had certain rules in place that kind of hindered it from happening for a really long time, but they're finally making it happen. It's going to have faster loading, 4K support on Xbox Series X, and there's going to be an open beta scheduled for patch 6.5X in spring of 2024. So congrats to all the Xbox players out there that are finally going to be able to play Final Fantasy XIV, considered to be one of the greatest MMOs ever created. And I'm really curious to see how the fan base of 14, which is already very, very large, how it grows as a result of this whole ecosystem now being included. I think to a certain extent, Xbox and PC overlap a lot, so it might not be as big as an impact as some people are imagining. But still, there's plenty of people that only play on Xbox that are now going to be really excited for
I
this.
was gonna ask, as someone who I'm like, for the most part, strictly a console player. I'm a PlayStation girl.
Mhm.
And I'm not really sure how this works. And I have not played 14 either. I've created a character in Realm Reborn, and that is it. I've never actually played 14. Can you guys tell me, is there crossplay between like with PC and
Yes.
PlayStation, and there will be crossplay with Xbox as well?
Yes.
Yes.
That's really nice. And I'm really honestly surprised they didn't do this a long time ago, because they brought like the remasters of, 8, 9, 10, 10-2 to Xbox years ago.
So
15 has been on Xbox forever.
Xerxes in chat said one of the reasons, and I think it might even be beyond this as well, but one of the reasons being that Xbox wanted Xbox only servers. And that was a part of why Square Enix couldn't make it work. There were certain, I don't know what to call them. They used to have certain rules that need to be followed on Xbox's end when it comes to games that release on their console, and there was just a few that couldn't be met by Square Enix. I have a feeling that Xbox made an exception rather than Square Enix meeting those rules, is what I think probably occurred. Finally. But we were actually just talking about A Realm Reborn, how long it is. It kind of fits into this other part. This came out this week during FanFest, that Yoshi P said Final Fantasy XIV is like a TV series that shouldn't be skipped through, because a lot of people are like, I want to skip A Realm Reborn, I hear it's a slog, I want to skip through it. Here's what he said, quote, with the duty support system, we've allowed it so that you don't necessarily have to play with other players. This is true, and I 100% agree with him here. You can go solo and power through the story content. You can play 14 as if it's a single player Final Fantasy. I think you're missing out on a huge aspect of what makes that game special, which is the community. And I think I would have felt like the game was even more of a slog if I wasn't embracing the community aspect of 14. But he is right, you can play solo. With the analogy of a TV series, this is like a season 6 that we are just now releasing, and people might be tempted to say, oh well, just start from 6, but I honestly feel like, well, it's on season 6 and we've made it so that season 1 is very easy to get through and binge. So I think it couldn't be easier to recommend for new players to just start at the beginning and take it from there. Even if we release an expansion pack, our previous content is not necessarily old or older. We continue to update it. We've continued to add new content. Plus, it's very story driven. And so if we have a new expansion pack, would players only focus on the new expansion? Would people be eager to just jump into the new expansion pack? I wonder. I'm going to put a poll in chat. I'm curious, everybody here, should A Realm Reborn be skipped? Let us know in chat. Rare, if you had the option to skip A Realm Reborn, now knowing what it feels like, would you have skipped it?
Heck yeah. But I don't know. It's tough because I haven't finished it. From what I've heard is that it is kind of necessary in order to appreciate the next seasons and expansions. So I don't know. It's kind of a toss up, I'd say. But right now I'm voting yes.
Okay. Ratchet. Go ahead.
I voted no. And that's someone who's never played 14. I've never played it. And I voted no because it's kind of like, and it's funny with Drew, when he was over here the other day with me, you guys can criticize for this for me as much as you want, but I've never seen the show Friends. And I was like, well, and he put on a random episode. And I was like, I don't know any of these characters. I was like, if you're going to put on Friends, put on the first episode. And he's like, well, it's a pilot episode. They don't really have the same kind of connection that they're going to have later on. I was like, that's okay. I don't care. I want to watch the pilot. I feel like A Realm Reborn is kind of like a pilot. There's not going to be as much connection there. That the world is very basic at this point, but it's still, I feel like if I play 14, I am going to have to start at the very beginning because I feel like it's going to be crucial to understanding even little silly things that I just wouldn't understand if I skipped it.
I agree with Rare that it is a slog at parts, but I will also say that it introduces the races, the world, the characters. It introduces a lot of stuff that I think if I were to skip it, even having just played Heavensward, I would have been pretty lost on some things. I would have needed the chat to really fill me in on certain aspects of this world. It's a foundation, as Draco said. I agree. It is a foundation. It's a lot to ask of the player, in my opinion. I do think it's a lot to ask, and I do think that it commits the cardinal sin of not respecting the player's time, which is one of the biggest things That's like my biggest pet peeve in gaming, is when a game does not respect my time. And I do think that Final Fantasy XIV commits that cardinal sin, but I don't think you can skip it. And Ratchet and Clank, well, Ratchet in chat. Wow. I don't know why my brain just did that. Ratchet in chat said the real question is, should you play 14? I'm somebody that avoided 14 for a very, very long time, because it is so intimidating to me. An MMO, as large as it is, so intimidating to me. But I will say I'm so happy I finally took that leap and jumped into Realm Reborn. The community in Final Fantasy XIV is one of the most amazing things I've ever experienced. How welcoming they are, how generous they are. I've made so many friends. Al Darling in chat right now, and many others in chat right now, actually, that I'm seeing are people that I've met through 14. And it's been really cool. It's been a really, really cool experience.
I haven't even played it, but I've watched Drew play through all of A Realm Reborn and Heavensward, and I have yet to meet a toxic 14 player. Everybody, when they find somebody who's brand new to the game, they're just like, friend? Like, it's so cute. It's so wholesome. I've never seen.
If you put a Sprout at the beginning of your name, they're gonna flock to you.
Yeah,
so
I've never seen an online community get so excited. It's like, welcome to our happy cult. It's so cute.
Yeah.
The only thing I'll say is I played not long after A Realm Reborn came out. I started 14 with a group that left World of Warcraft to go straight over to 14. This was before a lot of people jumped ship. And I loved it. We was a group. We got all the way to level 60. We started Heavensward. We were doing everything. I absolutely loved it. That group kind of fell apart. We argued and everything kind of collapsed. When I came back to Realm Reborn, I hated it. I absolutely hated it, because I had to level through this. There was no quick way to get that content done, even though I had already done it once on another character, aside from transferring that character. And I felt, as somebody who wanted to progress, but with a different group, I couldn't, because I had to go through this massive slog, which took forever. And I was skipping everything, and it still took forever. And even then, I still couldn't get to grips with it. I knew what was going on because I had played it, but I hated the fact I had to go through it all over again. And I know you don't have to. You can play one character forever and do everything. That's a complete fantastic thing that 14 does. But they didn't add an option to allow you to get through if you do change without transferring.
Right. Yeah, it's a tough position that they've put themselves in. I think they want to cater to both sides, and that's kind of what we're going to get to right now. There was a question asked actually in an IGN interview: what will be the features in Dawntrail that will help old players to get back to the game, or even bring new players to the adventures in this new area? How can they avoid getting lost in the current lore and get up to date to play Dawntrail? To which Yoshi P responded, quote, "Currently, since patch 6.1, we've implemented a system that allows players to revisit the lore and various characters throughout the stories. We're also contemplating ways to accommodate players who wish to bypass the earlier content and dive straight into the latest offerings." So even though just earlier he said that he thinks people shouldn't skip anything, it sounds like he's saying in this latest quote that they're actually contemplating providing a way for somebody to skip right to Dawntrail if they want to. So
interesting.
It's a good option to provide. Like, it's not saying you have to, it's not saying you should, it's saying you can.
Right.
And I think that is the key point. It does not take from the game whatsoever. You can still revisit the entire game. Those quests are still going to be there.
No.
You can still do everything. Just do it on another class on the same character. Absolutely not a problem. But I like that they're now giving an option to go, you know what? I want to go and experience that, and then casually in my own time, just go and experience the older stuff.
Sure.
I think that's a good option.
Agree. Yeah, I think sometimes, and I don't know if it's just the Final Fantasy community, but sometimes the community can get caught up in, well, it should be experienced this way. And I don't think more options is ever a bad thing. You know, like I saw people complaining about the Moguri mod for like Final Fantasy, 7, and and then the 9 demos out and the 8 demos out, and people are just like, well, like, does it take away, like, this game doesn't really need voice acting? It's like, yeah, it doesn't need it, but like,
are you talking about the Echo S mod?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The Echo mod, I think it was the Magori mod. Maybe I'm mixing them up. But anyway, yeah. It's just like it's always nice to have that option in case someone wants to experience it a certain way. I don't think it ever hinders you. It's never worse to have it. Magori is 9. Okay.
Yeah, Moguri, it's a beautiful mod. Yeah, but yeah, B's been playing the Echo mods for I think both 7 and 8. I think she might have done a demo for 9. And it's really amazing work. Voice acting provided by the fan base, and it's really neat to see. And it's great that it's there, right? Like you said, it's great to have options.
I honestly, it's kind of ironic that because B's YouTube playthrough of the Echo S mod, the voice mod for 9, was shared onto a Final Fantasy 9 group that I'm in on Facebook, and it was like, this is a great option for people who want voice acting, but you have to look at it from a different perspective as well. If you're blind or vision impaired, it's really hard to play these older games because it's all reading, right? And this one guy commented on this thing and he was like, this ruins the game for me. And I'm like, then don't play this mod. And he goes, well, of course I'm not going to play it. Yeah. And he goes, I'm not blind. I'm not vision impaired. Of course I'm not going to play it. I was like, then what is your point? Like, this is for people who finally get the opportunity to play the games that did not have voice acting. Like, let people enjoy
just
things.
No need for their comment at all.
Right. It was kind of wild to me. I was like, well, then don't play it.
Funnily enough, I actually also have the demo to the Echo S mod for 9, so I'll be playing through that as well, and I could be able to talk about how I feel on that one.
Yeah, I've been pretty impressed actually by both 8 and 9's Echo S mods. They're pretty crazy. Speaking of 9, last month we dove into Final Fantasy IX remake rumors. We talked a lot about what we would want from a 9 remake if it were to happen. Well, there was a little tiny tidbit of extra information that came from the same insider that leaked some of the previous information about 9 remake, and what they had to say is, quote, voice acted, new scenes, updated overworld, and all new models and backgrounds. So one of the things that sticks out for me in a big way, there are 2 things. New scenes for one, because we talked a lot about how they need to add in some more stuff for Amarant, right? So maybe we're going to get more context on Amarant's story. But more than that, actually, what sticks out to me is new models and backgrounds. So it makes me wonder, is this just going to be so faithful to the point where it's not a 3D camera controlled Final Fantasy IX remake, it's still the static angles, but maybe they're re-rendering them in 4K, or maybe even they are modeling them in 3D, but just only allowing you to see at the angle that the original game provided to us. What do you guys think? Easily, we'll start with you.
Come back to me in a minute.
Okay, all right, he needs a moment. Rare, I know 9's not your favorite, but if they were to remake it, maybe it could climb the ranks. What do you think? What do you think they should do?
I would absolutely play a 9 remake. When I first played 9, it was my best friend's favorite, so I had high expectations for it. I really enjoyed 8, and so it was interesting to see the style completely change. So I wonder if they're going to keep that like iconic, like still like cartoonish style, where previously, like with 7 and 8, they were trying to go for more realism, and then of course after 9 they went back to like a little bit more realism. So I'd be interested to see what they do with the style, the background, the art. As far as story beats, I do think, and maybe this is like a hot take, I think the pacing could be improved. It has been a long time since I played 9. So I could be misremembering, but I think that was a game that kind of like dragged out for me, that I kept thinking like, oh, we could cut this out, kind of expedite this plot line without spoiling anything, certain plot lines. I do think adding more backstory for certain characters, like you brought up Amaranth, I would love to see. The more Beatrix, the better. Personally.
Agreed.
Yeah, let's maybe like not forgive her for being a war criminal so quickly.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, you could definitely. Yeah, I think there's a lot that can be like tweaked. But no, I'm excited. Like, just because 9 wasn't my favorite doesn't mean I don't want a remake. In fact, I think maybe like will make it improve the experience for me, and maybe make me see a lot of the points that other people have, because a lot of people love 9. I feel like I'm kind of in the minority as someone who's like, 9's not even in my top 5. Like, I don't think it's a bad game or anything, but it's definitely not my top favorite.
Number
especially
2 for
like-
me, but number 1 for Shoop. What do you think of that quote, Shoop?
9 is my favorite, not just my favorite Final Fantasy, but it's actually my favorite game of all time. And it's funny because I didn't play, the Final Fantasies 1 through 6, or even actually 1 through 7 before I played 9. And but I definitely am looking through 9 with some nostalgia glasses on as well, and I wholeheartedly admit that it's a big reason why it's one of my favorites, is because it got me through so much. It helped me, and I've talked about this before, that I had a very unconventional childhood. And 9, the tropes that it has when it comes to like coping with like death and darker themes, I was like, oh, I can work through my grief playing this game. And I thought it was actually great as a child who didn't know how to cope with grief to play a game like that. But the cartoony aspect of it that still gave me comfort, if that makes sense, without me like being hit too hard in the face with like, this is too serious. I would love a remake of 9. I would. Do I think that, and I can bring up 10 as well, because there's been rumors of 10 being remade. Do I think 9 or 10 needs a remake? And I'm going to say no, because I think 8 needs one. I don't think 9 or 10 need one. Could they benefit from one? Yes, of course. I think any Final Fantasy could probably benefit from a remake. But after, and Rare, I don't know if you have seen, did you watch the Memoria project?
No.
It was actually just on screen. What I was sharing on screen there, that remake of 9, that was a let's call it fan made remake of the first 20 minutes of the game or so.
It's a non-playable game. It's the first 20 to 30 minutes of Final Fantasy 9. That just a bunch of Final Fantasy nerds got together, and they were like, and they made it with Unreal Engine 5. And if they remake 9, I want it to look very much like that, even though I know from what I understand that Square Enix will not use Unreal Engine, and that's fine, but
that's not necessarily true. 7 Rebirth and Remake were on Unreal Engine, so they are open to it.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I don't know. I want a 9 remake because 9 is so close to my heart. Do I think it needs it? No, because I've been replaying. That's something these games have for the most part, is such a level of replayability. When you just want to like comfy, cozy up, you can replay these games that you love so much over and over again and not get sick of them.
Yeah.
And I'm fine replaying 9. I mean, I told you guys before when the remaster came out, with just like the 3x speed and stuff like that, which by the way adds some serious quality of life. We talk about respecting time. I finally caved and bought a PS4 when the remaster came out. So if they remake 9 and it's on like a PlayStation 6, well, I'm gonna go buy a PlayStation 6. I'm not, you know what I mean? Like I'm gonna buy it. I'm gonna play it. Do I think it needs it? No. But that's okay.
Speaking of, in chat I saw you bringing up like cozy and comfort and all, and one of our new Moogle mailbox questions was related to that, and we'll get to that at the end of the show. I do want to remind you guys now that we're a few questions and stories deep in the show, utilize Moogle mailbox. We're not going to get every question in chat because this is a conversational podcast. We're focused on talking with each other, but we do want to answer your questions. Take advantage of the Moogle mailbox in chat, and we'll get to that on the final segment of the show. Jumping into another remake that was discussed just this past week, Final Fantasy VI remake is coming up in conversation now too. Not as a rumor or anything like that, but Yoshinori Kitase is pushing hard, supposedly, for this remake. Just last month, Final Fantasy mainstay developer Yoshinori Kitase revealed that while a Final Fantasy VI remake would be difficult, lost my train of thought there, or lost my spot, would be difficult. He's constantly being approached by other developers at Square Enix who want the remake to eventually happen. I would like to push Final Fantasy VI again, Kitase comically remarked in roundtable interview for the 35th anniversary. Kitase was, if you didn't know, a director on the original Final Fantasy VI for Square Enix back in the day, at the time Squaresoft. So if the director of the game advocates for a remake, who's to say no? His co-director was Ito at the time, which I have a feeling if a 9 remake is happening, maybe Ito is working on that. I have no idea. But Kitase wants a 6 remake. Rare. You down?
1,000%. I think, like, I'm not trying to be a hater. Like, I am so happy for anyone who gets there. There are 7 remakes. at least 7 is like an older game, but like 10 and 9 remakes are definitely further down on my list. A 6 remake would be absolutely amazing. Number 1, because it's the last 2D Final Fantasy. Like, so I feel like being able to experience, and I know we have like the pixel remasters and stuff, like, so it's like, I guess you could argue that, but it's not the same as like a complete remaster. Like if they did what they did with 7 remake with 6, my little Final Fantasy heart would flutter right out of my chest and into the sky. Like I'd be knocking on the pearly gates saying, "I could die happy, God, please take me."
What would you want them to change if they were to change things about it? What would you want them to change?
Absolutely, yeah. It'd be. I do think 8 is one that could definitely use like a really good remake.
Mhm.
2, but 6 is my number 1. I think taking that to life. It's a masterpiece. It has an amazing soundtrack, best story. The entire cast of characters is fantastic. There's not a loser in the lineup. Like usually you'll play a Final Fantasy game, you'll be like, yeah, Wakka's never gonna be in my team. Kamari's never gonna be in my team. With 6, it's like you can't I think it's going to be amazing. I think fans will be super excited. I can't see anyone in the Final Fantasy community really being upset about a 6 remake. I feel like the streets have been like crying for it for a long time. As much as I'm in the community, so I think they should expedite that, ship that out quicker.
This is not the first time Katase has talked about wanting to remake 6. So with him, he's obviously very much behind 7 remake as well. He's a producer, maybe even director on. No, he's not director. He's producer on that. So he's advocated for a remake already. He made 7 remake happen. I bet someday he'll make 6 remake happen as well. One question though, actually. Out of curiosity, would any of you be interested in them taking the 2D HD Octopath Traveler approach to Final Fantasy VI?
What Travis said in chat.
Oh, really? Okay.
Remake 6. I wanted in HD 2D. I think the Final Fantasy VI pixel art is timeless, so giving it that HD 2D glow up in the same vein as Dragon Quest III remake would butter my bread. I think it would lose something if it just went generic 3D, in my opinion. Is what he said.
So I personally don't mind which style, because the way I see it is the original games still exist. There is absolutely nothing to lose by remaking older games. It might flop. I mean, they might lose money, but ultimately, do the fans lose anything by them remaking game? No. Do I feel like they should prioritize certain styles? Yeah. I do think maybe the pixels would look better going in the Octopath style. Given what I've seen of them and the little bits I've played of them, I think I'd probably prefer that, because I think I'd be a little bit lost with them in 3D.
Mm-hmm.
But who's to say how you'd find it?
I don't think I have much of an opinion on this question, just because I have not played 6 yet.
Yeah.
And I want to experience it in its lovely 2D-ness before I decide what I want it to look like if they remade it.
We just had the pixel remaster, which is beautiful looking, by the way, for Final Fantasy VI. Rare, if they were to do it, would you really want them to go all in like 7 remake style, or would you kind of want them to stay faithful to the pixel and do like 2D HD?
I think like both would be cool. I'd prefer the full like 3D style, because the 2D, like Travis said, is timeless. It's gonna look pretty. 2D pixel art is gonna look pretty regardless. It's like a certain art style. It's like, Wind Waker, Legend of Zelda. Like it's always going to look good, because it's like it's not gonna get dated like certain CGI will. And so yeah, like 3D, if they made a 3D remake of 6, like eventually over the years, like that's gonna get dated, but we'll always have the original, which is always going to look beautiful. So I would like to see a 3D one personally, but I don't think you can go wrong.
Yeah,
I'm
with
like
you there.
starving. I'm happy for whatever. Like, give me anything sick, please.
Give me a crumb.
Yeah.
Some exciting news for the Final Fantasy series as a whole, in that it is just past 180 million units sold throughout the entire series. 180 million units sold. That's pretty crazy.
Hell of a number.
That is a hell of a number. Yeah. And beyond that as well, Square Enix is very, very pleased with Final Fantasy XVI's sales. They came out and talked a little bit of numbers this month with quote, with 38 million PS5 consoles shipped globally. That was of March 31st this year. sales of Final Fantasy XVI surpassed 3 million units worldwide several days after its release. Just in a few days, they got 3 million. And taking into consideration the sales figures of the acclaimed 7 remake and the difference in size of the install base of the PS4 at the time of this title's release, we can see that the attach rate of 16 is considerably high given the PS5 install base. It might even be as high as like 12, 13, 14% of the entire PS5 install base has Final Fantasy 16, which is really, really good. Square Enix considers
that would not shock me.
Yeah. Square Enix considers the initial sales results of 16 to be extremely strong, and we will continue to carry out a wide range of initiatives to encourage even more people to play the game. So I think Final Fantasy is alive and well. It's very healthy right now, which is great news. No matter what you feel about 16, right? We want this franchise to continue succeeding, because you never know when it's going to be your Final Fantasy. You know what I mean? It's tough. It's a tough pill to swallow, right? Because you have to wait 7 years potentially in between Final Fantasy games. So when one does come out where you're like, okay, this wasn't my Final Fantasy, like I wasn't super into this one, I'll have to wait another 6-7 years for the next one, which is a tough pill to swallow. But you want all of them to do well so that we get to that point where the next one is just as crazy epic in scale, just as much production value, just as much heart and soul put behind it. And I think based on what we're seeing so far, that's going to be the case. I put a poll in chat for you guys. Where do you think Final Fantasy 16 sales will end up? If it gets to like the 5 to 7 million range, that would be Final Fantasy 9 at initial release. If you get to 7 to 9 million, you're more like Final Fantasy 8. 9 to 10 million, you're up there with Final Fantasy 10. And if you get 10 plus million, you're in the Final Fantasy 7, Final Fantasy 15 realm of sales numbers. Where do you guys think we're going to end off with Final Fantasy 16?
I mean, the way I'm kind of looking at it, I'm looking at it from a creator standpoint. 2 out of the 3 crystal bearers, and I talked about this last time, out of myself, Drew, and Easley, 2 of us ended up getting PS5s for this game, just for this game, and that would be me and Easley. And I can name at least one other creator within the Final Fantasy community on Twitch that also got a PS5 just for this game.
Right.
And that says a lot. When you know people directly, more than one person directly, that got a console just to play this game, that says a lot.
Without a doubt. Yeah. And to Chad, who was it who said 9 was the worst? Yeah, Ratchet. Unfortunately, when 9 first released, it was actually released right when PS2 was coming out. Final Fantasy X was already announced. And there was a lot of backlash after 7 and 8's more realistic, edgy approach, that 9 was childish and kiddish and all that. And it did result in relatively low sales numbers in comparison to 7 and 8. It's only been in the last, I would say, 5 years that there's been a resurgence of love and popularity for Final Fantasy IX, and they're capitalizing on that seemingly with the announcement of the Final Fantasy IX animated series, the heavy rumors of the 9 remake, and so on. So, and Memoria Project as well. So 9 is very much loved today, but there was a dark period in time where 9 was not considered to be all that. But
my childhood was spent defending that game. It was all, no, Final Fantasy 8's better. No, Final Fantasy 7's better. But 10 just came out, and 10 has voice acting. Why are you still playing 9? And I'm like, okay, you're right.
Seems like chat thinks 16 is going to get up there with Final Fantasy 8, like 7 to 9 million, which I think would be amazing. Those would be amazing numbers. Speaking again of 16, Yoshi P is talking about the possibility of DLC for Final Fantasy 16, something that they were strongly against when they first revealed 16's release date and all that kind of stuff. Question, are there plans for any DLC? Quote from Yoshi P, as you know, going into Final Fantasy 16, the one thing we wanted to create was a full, complete story, something that you can enjoy from beginning to end 100% without any DLC, and I think we were able to do that. But now we understand we're getting feedback from players that have played the game, and a lot of us players want to see more, and we know that and understand that. For us, we're taking that and then thinking about our options moving forward. So hopefully in the near future, we can have something that we can give to you all. So they are considering DLC now. Personally, I'm not so happy with that. Not because I don't think DLC could be great. Intermission, Yuffie's DLC, I freaking loved. But 7 Remake, for me, there was never a part in 7 Remake where I was like, oh, like they wasted this moment. They could have added more here. They could have added more there. But with 16, I can't help but think like, oh man, you could have cut like half of these side quests that are really not great. And you could have incorporated I don't know, maybe you could have incorporated what was going on with this character between this period and this period that we never got to see. You know what I mean? Something that I really want to see that you didn't give us. You could have spent time maybe working on that as opposed to padding the game out with an extra 50 side quests. You know what I mean? So I can't help but read this and think, no, don't, just let it go. Move on to the next thing, is my opinion. What do you think, Easily?
I personally don't want 16 DLC. I feel like it is not a necessary aspect of it. Do I think it, like, I didn't think 7 Remake needed a DLC, but it was good DLC. So if they do, as long as they do it in the right way, it will be good. But I really don't think it needs it. And I personally don't want it there.
I'm sure it would be good. Let me just put it out there. I'm sure if they do DLC, I'm sure it will be good. What do you think, Shoop?
I can't say definitively if I want DLC until I finish the game, if I feel like something was missing. As of right now, I definitely think there are pieces of this story or pieces of just background that could have been more touched upon as far as I've gotten. But there's also a million other ways to learn more about the world and learn more about the characters, whether that be like the 1,000 Tomes or the not active time event. That's in 9. What's it called in 16?
Active time lore.
Active time lore. Yeah, where you can like literally stop the scene in the middle of the scene and read about the person you're talking to, or read about the like. Yeah, it's a really cool option.
It's very cool.
This isn't a spoiler, so I'll say this. Like at the very beginning of the game, Jill's like, "I will pray to Metia for you," and I'm like, what the fuck is Media? And you click your little light bar and it shows Media, and you can select Media and read about the star in the sky. Like, it's cool. You can learn about things as you go, but
cool.
it's a really nice option. I've learned a lot about the world based on that. As far as certain character DLC, I don't want to spoil anything. There are definitely some characters that I didn't get to spend enough time with to completely understand their story. So I know, like, for me, if we get a DLC, I know that there's one character in particular that I would really, really love to learn more about, like their childhood, their background, their motives, their I can't say that's a spoiler, but it's, again, that was kind of a big one. So
right. I know who you're talking about, and I agree 100%.
Yeah, I want to know how their motives really, really, really came to be. And there are pieces that touch on it, but they don't full out say, I do want some more, depending. But at the same time, I also don't want there to be a paywall attached to it either. Right. I feel like, oh, you want to know more about this game that you really enjoyed? $15 will get you, or it's probably more than $15, like, realistically.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be way more.
Probably 20, yeah.
Yeah, more than that, I'd say, to really expand upon a story. But
they could do like a definitive edition, like, right, or they re-released the game, but hey, this version comes with the DLC included, or you can buy the DLC individually for $20 or $30 kind of thing.
Right. But like I said, until I finish the game, I can't really say if I want it or not, because for all I know, the last 10% of the game is going to answer any question that I may have.
Maybe. Rare, even though you haven't played 16, how do you feel like overall about DLC? Are you a fan of DLC? Do you find yourself coming back to games, or when you're done a game, do you like move on with your life?
Oh, I play a lot of DLC in games.
Yeah.
Like Borderlands. I'm a big Borderlands fan. I play all the DLC for every single Borderlands game every time. I don't think DLC is like I said, unless it's like the game is arriving incomplete and they're using DLC as like a crutch, right. And it's like you're feeling like, wow, you're gonna make me pay extra for this part of, like, to fix your game pretty much. Like, DLC can be done bad, so I voted like depends on like what it's about, and parentheses like how it's done. As someone who hasn't played 16, like, I can't really say if it needs it or if there's anything I want. But no, I'm always open to DLC. If it's like just extra content and you're someone who wants to like pay the money to like experience more content of the game, well, why not? Like, yeah, I think it's a nice option.
It's definitely one of those things like what we were talking about earlier, where like options are not a bad thing. If you don't want it, then don't buy it. Don't play it.
Exactly. As long as it's not like this game is like missing chunks and you're making people pay to fill in those chunks of the game that should have been there like upon release, then I don't think it's a bad thing.
I can agree with that. Let's move on, you guys. That is the level update. Let's get into one of our Discord focus segments that you guys can take advantage of on our Discord at discord.gg/Droogle. Of course, it is called the Equation of the Month. So our question this month was, if you could choose only one Final Fantasy to adapt for film or television, which would it be? How does your choice of Final Fantasy make sense for the medium of film TV? And what, if anything, would need to change to make it work? So I think we'll kind of do round table style here, each taking a response. I'll start off with Hoshi, who came in on the Discord and responded, I personally think Final Fantasy IV has a very good potential for TV or film. While the sequel wasn't well received, the story remained important and touching, maybe a bit cringe to some, with added values modern societal views, race equality, family values, choice of actions, and even the concept of death. The only thing I would change in terms of story regarding said game is the factor of Rydia easily forgiving Cecil after her home was destroyed. Since she is a little girl, maybe a bit of rebellion would be understandable considering how much she lost and felt. I just finished 4. I think it was really cool to see how the story evolved from a character standpoint, how it did delve a little bit more into darker subject matter. I found myself ending that game and feeling like I'm gonna miss some of these characters. So I think 4 is a very good one, and I think it would be kind of interesting to see how they would take one so early on in the series and try and adapt that into film TV. I think people would be very surprised by that if it were to happen. Easily, go ahead, take the next one.
I'm gonna drop down to number 5 on the list.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go with Logan's response. Honestly, I think Final Fantasy VIII lends itself to be itself best to a TV series. If you break it down into key moments of the story, you have some really great episodes. The seed exam, the train heist, the assassination of the sorceress, the battle for Garden, etc. They would all make fun episodes that could be built around. I think they could easily do more with swapping between the different characters and likely push the Squall/Laguna piece more to jump between those characters and I'm lost where I am, and stories, and could add a little more there to add intrigue and develop the story. It could also be a live action style, since it's founded in dystopian kind of world that's magic and fantasy, but within relatable elements to people who aren't huge super fantasy fiends. There's probably what would be really important is actually to be able to attract people who weren't gamers to know or know the genre. Otherwise, no major stream or channel would pick it up enough to provide budget to do it justice. So I actually agree heavily with 8 being fantastic for that because of the fact it has so many different elements to the game which could be so separately done. Mm-hmm. And it is almost like when you play it, it is almost like a little series of little events that they just put together. It's both a positive and a massive negative of the game in itself. So I think it could be something that they could do very well.
I think also from a production budget standpoint, it makes a lot of sense because 8 is very modernistic, right? If you do something like Final Fantasy XVI, a lot of set design goes into that, right? You're recreating medieval high fantasy realms and all this kind of stuff. But a lot of the areas in 8 are really, you could go find a place and be like, yeah, there's our spot. We'll do like a little bit of green screen here and there, but this is basically a recreation of Dalit or Dale or however you say it. You know, like it makes a lot of sense from a production standpoint if you're going in with that mindset as well. So I can agree
fully
there.
Agree. Yeah, fully agree.
Shoop, which one do you want to take?
It's funny that easily took Logan's because I was reading that before he picked it, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna read this one." So choose a different one because that's
going for 4.
no, I am gonna go for 4 now, but because I don't have any experience with 6. I know somebody said about 6, but I don't have experience with that game. So I'm gonna take number 4, and this was from Ray, who said, "I think for me, Final Fantasy X would make a great movie. Reason being is that it has a little bit of everything." It has every possible emotion, sadness to laughter to desperation to accomplishment and everything in between. Characters are lovable and there are a lot of iconic moments. The laugh scene in the Blitzball game, like the tournament, to Yuna going and receiving all the Aeons while making her journey. I think it would make a great long movie, or you can adapt it into a film series, aka Lord of the Rings. I like the idea of 10 being a film series rather than a TV show, where it's like, I feel like 8 would be perfect for a TV series, like what Logan was saying about the episodic thing with like the seed exam, the train heist. 8 does really well episodically. I feel like 10 would do better as like a 3-part trilogy. Like at the beginning, I don't want to spoil too much, but like if you haven't played 10, because I know there's some friends here who have not played 10. but there's like the beginning, like the start of the pilgrimage, and like everyone getting to know each other and how we develop our relationships with each other. And then like the turning point in the game where you start to learn more about like, oh, this goes a lot deeper than we thought. And then like a third part in the trilogy where it's like, you know, where it comes down to the wire and like everything starts to get a little bit more serious. Rare, did you just bring a Pokeball?
Is that one of the Burger King ones?
That's what I was about to say. It looks like I remember those.
I have that.
Sorry, I thought I saw something
Pokeball
behind.
in the chat, and so I was like, "Which Pokeball?" I collect Pokemon stuff.
For those listening as a podcast, you're probably very confused right now, but Rare pulled out
I'm
an old
sorry.
school Pokemon or Pokeball from the Burger King. Back when the first movie was coming out, Pokemon's first movie, there was a tie-in with Burger King where they were selling off these
for the kids
Pokeballs.
meals,
Yep, which
too.
came with a gold tablet inside of it. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
it's the
I asked
Mewtwo
thinking
tag.
Rare was just going to type a response. I didn't think she was going to go and get a ball.
That's awesome.
I have a couple Pokeballs back there.
Easily had asked her in chat, for anyone who's listening to this on like Spotify or Apple Podcasts after we upload it, did I just see a Master Ball behind you earlier? And Rare really did just go and get the Pokeball. I have it. It's right here. But yeah, I think 10 would make a really great 3-part series. So I think 10 would make a great TV series. No, but I think a film series would be cool.
I'm not going to ask it here because I don't want to get into spoilers, but I'm curious where you think each movie in the trilogy would end. But we got 2 more responses. We got number 2 and number 3. Rare, do you have it pulled up? Would you want to take one of those?
My response?
We got 2. We got number 2 and number 3 as far as Question of the Month responses. If you want to read one, I can take the next one.
In the Google Doc.
I'll take the next one, and then you can take the final one. Okay?
Oh,
I'll do
yeah.
Taser Face, as I like to call him. He responded, "For me, it is between Final Fantasy XI and Final Fantasy XIV as either a series or a manga. Probably more inclined to say Final Fantasy XIV. I find MMOs very overwhelming due to sensory overload. Whilst I do appreciate Final Fantasy XIV adding functionality to make playing it solo much more manageable, it's more to do with how much is going on screen at any point while trying to deal with a large number of MMO menus. Not to mention how time-consuming playing an MMO can be. To have an adaptation in the form of a series or manga covering what many consider one of, if not just Final Fantasy's greatest story, but one of the greatest stories in gaming, would be amazing for someone such as myself, who finds that MMOs are the most inaccessible game form because of sensory overload, among other mental difficulties and time commitment I cannot give. 14 is the one I thought that they were working on, actually. So this was a while ago. I want to say it was years ago at this point. There was a story going around that Netflix was going to adapt Final Fantasy, and that it wasn't specifically going to be any particular Final Fantasy, but that it was most inspired by 14 because 14 is an homage to every Final Fantasy. Like there's something from every Final Fantasy in 14. So they would have used 14 as sort of like the basis, but it would have eventually like paid tribute to 7, 8, 9, 10, 6. Like it would have gone to all of them kind of over the course of the series. So almost like just a celebration of Final Fantasy as a whole, which I think would be really, really cool. And of course they would have to make their own original story around that, which would help them in dodging a lot of the fan complaints of, oh, you didn't do this right, you cut this out, that's what's going to happen if they try to adapt Final Fantasy VII into a movie or TV series. Everybody's going to be pissed off because Cloud didn't do X, Y, or Z like he did in the game, or didn't say this specific line. So they could kind of dodge that if they were to do it that way. So I don't know whatever happened to that. I wonder if it's still even happening. But I guess
I do remember hearing about it as well, actually. I gotta say, it's what, 3, 4, 5 years ago. I did hear it a good bit ago, and it looked similar to what Heavensward Style did when I saw it. I saw images, but I believe it was scrapped. So
maybe it was. Rare, you have the final response coming from Addo Beard.
Oh, and this is perfect because it aligns similarly with how I personally feel. Addo Beard says, while I would think Final Fantasy XIV would be an excellent long-running TV show because of the expansions and character growth and other reasons, if I could only choose one game to be made into a TV series, I would choose Final Fantasy VI. Me too, Addo! No, I would not want any of them to be a movie or movie series. I feel like you have to crunch too much into a short period of time. Yeah, no, do like an HBO. This is me. HBO series with Final Fantasy VI. But anyway, I'm not going to end Addo's turn yet. Crunch too much into a short amount of time for you to develop plot or connect with the characters. Final Fantasy VI has an amazing all-around cast of characters. It's like, I wrote this myself, who have widely different but still realistic personalities. It would be great to see them brought to life through acting. In addition, I think the World of Balance and World of Ruin storylines would be gripping because having the BBEG big, is this, I don't know what BBEG stands for.
BBEG, I don't know what that is either. Big
Bad Evil guy, I'm assuming. Big bad evil guy.
That's like me when I try and read acronyms too.
I don't know if I want to.
Somebody in chat, what does BBEG stand for? I'm going to go with Big Bad Evil Guy. I'm with you.
Yeah, that's what I think, something like that. With reference to, I don't know, it's kind of spoilers, so I don't know if I want to finish that sentence.
Yeah, I agree, yeah.
I'll skip that. But I agree. The subplots and lore also would help create an excellent and fully fleshed out storyline for a TV show as well, such as an entire episode about Edgar and Sabin as young princes and delving into their character origins and why they made the decisions that they did and how that still affects them years later. The same goes for the OG War of the Magi as well as the opera scene.
Iconic.
Add in the discussions of mental health, the power of relationships in negative and positive ways, like Locke and Rachel, and how that affects his relationship with Terra and Celeste, Terra's personal acceptance, the fact that Sir Cyan and Celeste are immediately at odds, etc. And the theme of never giving up when all hope is lost is something I feel resonate with many viewers and make it an excellent TV show that would last 2 or 3 seasons. I agree.
You only want 2 or 3 seasons? You don't want more than that, Rare?
I think
could go a bit
Look,
longer.
we saw what happened at Game of Thrones when it gave us 8 seasons, okay?
That's because they should have gone longer, though, not because they should have been shorter.
Yeah, that's just because they went off their own story as opposed to following a story.
They needed 2 more seasons of Game of Thrones. That's what they needed. They needed to do 10.
Yeah. I think 6 has a natural, like, halfway mark. I think 2 seasons would be perfect. If anyone who's played 6 kind of knows what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be a great part to end season 1, and then you could have season 2 be the next part of 6. And I think that'd be perfect.
I imagine there'd be fairly long seasons, given what I know of 6.
Yeah, maybe like 13 episodes, like an hour each or something, maybe.
Yeah, you can make it work. You could do it.
Yeah.
It's tough for me. I don't know which I would choose. I'm so happy they're doing 9 as a series. I do hope that it's not too aimed at like elementary school, because that's what it kind of sounded like they were going for, but I'm kind of hoping that it's something that can appeal to all age groups. I think if I were to choose, though, for me, I think I would choose 10, actually. I think I would most like them to do a 10 series. I think that'd be really, really cool. Just because I feel like that world is so... What was that? Sorry?
About 9, the 9 animated series. I haven't heard any updates on that.
No, not in a while. Yep, it's been radio silence for a long time.
That died in the wind.
I thought 10 would be great, but then when you brought up the production standpoint, I'm like, I can't imagine them making a show for 10.
You're right in that standpoint. It would be tough.
Yep.
Obviously, you can get those tropical environments all over the place, but the ruins, a lot of the ruins, the temples and things like that, definitely would require some investment. But if I'm ignoring that, if I'm saying like, hey, screw your money, give me what I want, I think I probably would say 10 would be really, really cool to see them try to realize, because that is such a unique atmosphere. Imagine Tidus's costume design in live action. Like, just like what? That'd be amazing. I would love that.
They did a Final Fantasy X Kabuki show, which I think is really cool because they got to bring it to life that way. Like, and I think 10 would fit perfect for a Kabuki or for a play, or like I said, for like a 3-part series. But I don't think, like, 10 has its own form of major linearity that I just think would get, and as much as I love 10, I'm going to say it, I think it would get boring if it became a TV series. We're going to walk this path. Oh, the environment's changed, but we're still walking this path. Oh no, something has come to light. We must continue to walk this new environmental path. Oh, now it's snowy. Oh, now we're at a beach. Like, it would be way too much production value, I feel like, for the environments, and I also feel like that it would be way too linear as a TV show, I think.
Yeah. Hard to say. Maybe we'll find out eventually which one they're going to do. Maybe 14 will happen, or they're their own version of 14. But thank you so much to all the responses that came in. You guys are amazing. We did have a couple
Thank you,
others on
guys.
there as well. We tried to tighten it up a little bit, but read the others. Go on the Discord at discord.gg/Droogle. There's a dedicated Crystal Bearers category within the Discord server, and there's a dedicated channel for Question of the Month. We will post another one in a week or less for you guys to start responding to, and maybe you might get featured on next month's episode of Crystal Bearers. But now we have to move on to the big part of the show. It is time for the topic of the month. We got that Heaven Sword music there. You guys couldn't hear that, but that was Heaven Sword. Beautiful. As I was alluding to early in the show, we're going to get into potentially a heated debate here on the Final Fantasy franchise and where it is best suited in its combat, whether it be action or turn-based or a hybrid or whatever you really want it to be. We're going to talk about where it started, where it's come, because 16 was obviously such a major departure for this franchise. Not that we haven't seen that before. We've seen many major departures for the Final Fantasy series when it comes to combat, but this was one that really... I've been around with Final Fantasy since I was 7 or 8. I've seen all those moments. I've experienced all those moments where it's like, this is not Final Fantasy. This one felt a little extra, and it still feels a little extra. I know the age of social media is much stronger now than it's ever been, so that, of course, plays a factor. But there is just still, even now, a couple months after release or whatever it is, there's still a lot of discourse going on right now, a lot of heated discussion on Final Fantasy 16 not being a Final Fantasy. Like, I don't do this again. Please don't let this be where the series goes. I'm done with the series. I'm never playing it again. Like, just a lot of that kind of stuff going on right now. So I'm kind of curious. We'll start with you, Rare, because you haven't played 16, but you've seen a lot of 16. So you get to come at it from a point of view of like, I've played everything that's come before. I can see the direction that 16 is going in. How do you feel looking at where the series has gone, and how do you feel juxtaposed against where it came from? What do you want for the future of this franchise?
Battle style, it doesn't matter too much to me. You brought this up earlier. I play Final Fantasy games for story mainly. I love OG turn-based RPGs. And I've played every single Final Fantasy. I've seen how it's been, had little tweakments, how it's changed, whether it's like a little bit or completely different. For example, like, I feel like 12 is like a big departure gameplay wise that did not gel with a lot of people. I love it, but a lot of people don't, and I can totally understand why. I don't mind them changing the combat. It just really doesn't, like, unless it's awful, as long as it's like well done in whatever aspect they're trying to go, then I don't really mind them changing it at all. It doesn't really impact my enjoyment of the games because I'm such a story narrative focused person when I play these games. Ideally, like for 12, for example, like, I don't like the story in that game a lot, but I love that game because the gameplay is so fun to me. So I don't know.
Sounds like you're open. Like you love Final Fantasy for Final Fantasy, right? And one going in this direction doesn't necessarily mean it's bad or good. It's just like you kind of take each one as their own thing and you'll judge it when you play it, kind of thing, which I think is a really healthy approach to this series, because we talked about it already. Like, the essence of Final Fantasy is that it's ever changing, right? And I think a lot of the discourse surrounding it right now forgets that. It's like, where were you? Are you new to this franchise? Like, were you not there when it went from turn-based to ATB? Were you not there when it went from ATB back to turn-based? Were you not there when 13 changed it all up? Or when 15, which was literally just 7 years ago, like, I would say that was a bigger departure from Final Fantasy than even 16 was. Like, where have you been? Like, this is par for the course, you guys. Like, what are we talking about here? Shoop, what do you think?
Here's the thing. I know that the poll is choose only one for Final Fantasy.
There can only be one.
There can only be one. I disagree.
I agree too, yeah.
There are multiple teams working on multiple games. And it's like, you have a completely different team working on Final Fantasy 16 compared to the team you have working on Final Fantasy Rebirth right now, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And if we're looking at, like, strictly the future of what Final Fantasy is going to be, I don't necessarily care, and I agree with Rare on this one. Like, I don't necessarily care what the focus of the combat is, as long as Final Fantasy will always give us a story that we can connect with, that we can immerse ourselves in.
As long as it has Sid and chocobos.
Sid and chocobos. I am going to keep stressing this point, that this is my first next gen game that I've played. It's not the first action game that I played, because I played The Witcher 3 and I loved the gameplay of The Witcher 3 and the story. It had a great balance of both. 16, the combat is relatively easy. I have not heard a single person complain about the difficulty as far as action combat goes, and I think that the developers did that in order to still give people who like were very, very turn-based only the opportunity to enjoy the story, which they also gave you a story mode as well as action focus. But they gave everyone the opportunity to enjoy the story and learn a different combat.
To step in for a second here, I actually think they went too far in that direction now that you bring it up.
Really?
I think that they should have allowed hard mode to be accessible from the very beginning.
That was the next thing I was gonna say. That's the only thing that I think is unfair to people who are already very familiar with action combat. I don't think, and this goes for any games, not just Final Fantasy, I don't think that hard mode should be locked behind having to play the game a second time, because that's a lot of cutscenes, it's a lot of side quests, it's a lot of dialogue that you have to go through again just to be able to do a new game plus, or
unless it radically changes something, right? If it's like literally something you can't do unless you play the game once, that's a different story. But yeah, in 16's case, I don't think that is what's going on.
Well, I think there is, to an extent. And I don't want to say that this is a spoiler, because I don't think it is. I think it's important that anybody who plays through Final Fantasy 16 once and only plans on playing through it once should know this, that you cannot get the best weapon in the game unless you play New Game Plus.
Right.
That was brought to my attention multiple times, and I'm glad that it was. So that way I'm not thinking, oh, I'm going to get this like super cool, which is traditionally in the Final Fantasy series, Ultima weapon. I cannot get this on my first playthrough. I don't think that makes the game radically different. Just to clarify, like, to me, that doesn't make the story radically different.
It doesn't make anything radically different to me. It just means you can't get the strongest weapon in the game. Radically different to me is literally making it so that on the next playthrough you can't use any items in battle. You can't refill your MP until a checkpoint at the end of the chapter. That is a radically different way of playing the game that completely changes your mindset when you're playing it, to the point where, like, I need to completely approach every aspect of this game differently.
But I don't think that anything should be locked behind, you have to play it with baby steps first. Like, I know a good handful, one in particular, creators on this platform that are gung-ho hard mode gamers. And to say, well, here, you got to put your diaper on before you can play without pull-ups. Like, that's not fair to people who are already experienced. If you choose action focus, you should be able to get, after choosing action focus in the main menu, you should be able to get the options of like easy, normal, or hard. Right. I don't think there should be like, sorry, we're going to force you to play it again. What if you didn't enjoy the game? What if it wasn't your vibe?
All three of us beat S rank, level 50, max level hunt in the game, 11 levels under said hunt on the first try, or maybe second try. I think easily, maybe.
So but I was 12 levels lower and I got it first try.
I got it first try. I saw Shoop got it first try. We all beat the hardest hunt in the game at this moment, level 50 hunt, on the first try. Like, I don't know.
And I'll just say, when I got to that hunt, I had literally spent the previous hour messing around with my entire build to the point where I was figuring it out. And to do it 12 levels lower, yes, I used all my items, but that to me is too easy.
I agree.
That should not be a thing that happens in that game at that point.
Think of like where the series came from with super bosses. How much work needed to go into preparing for those super bosses, not just from a grinding level standpoint, but from a strategy standpoint. Going into that battle.
We can talk about, I want to talk about like 10 super bosses, right? So those of you who know, I've platinumed Final Fantasy X on multiple platforms, multiple times. And now that I've had enough times of doing it, it probably, and let me see. I'm just going to base on like when I streamed my platinum run of 10, okay? Now that, keep in mind, that includes like me talking to however many people during all that as well. So I'm not necessarily just gameplay focused, but it took me 160 hours gameplay time.
Right.
And it's not just about the grinding. When it comes to super bosses in 10, you need a whole complete set of specific armor for the Dark Aeons, and then you need a completely different type of armor, and you have to make this armor yourself. You need a completely different armor to fight the boss that is unlocked after you defeat all the Dark Aeons.
I feel like 10 is a perfect contrast to what we just experienced with 16. I think 16, if we're looking at it as sort of laying the foundation of what Final Fantasy could become for this specific business division, and I'll dive deeper into this a little later on, I think they have a lot of potential there to evolve this specific formula into something really fantastic. But when I was saying earlier that it's missing certain RPG mainstays for me, or foundations for me, it is things like that you're alluding to, Shoop. Think of all of the crafting and the customization, all the different weapons and things that you can create in 10 that specifically for a certain boss you have to utilize, right? Not just because higher number equals better, higher strength, higher defense equals better. No, that's not always the end all be all. Like sometimes it might have a certain attribute which is really important to this specific battle. There's a lot of preparation, there's a lot of planning, there's a lot of strategizing that went into so many of the late game or super bosses of 10 and 7 and 8 and 9 and so on. And that's what's missing for me from 16. It's not to say that they can't do it. They could have done it, right? They could have done that. I feel like there's so many things they could have done with 16 to take that base formula action combat. There's a way they could have done status elements. There's a way they could have done weapons and armor and crafting to incorporate that kind of strategy. They just didn't for some reason.
I think that my issue with, like, I'm going to use 10 as an example, but like for the biggest super boss, if you don't if you don't break the sphere grid and completely revamp it, as Ghost said in chat, like if you don't have break HP limit, there are two methods of beating the super boss. You can do break HP limit, which takes a lot longer, and I have never done that method because I feel like it's a waste of time for me personally. You need to have a stupid amount of HP. You have to have like 80,000 plus HP, or you create an armor that gives you auto protect and defense plus 20 and an auto potion, and you can beat this boss with 9,909 HP. It's a strategy. Do you want to go this route and do the break HP limit strategy, or do you want to do the auto protect and defense plus 20 strategy? Like, you have to think about ahead of time what you're going to do before you start customizing these armors. I don't feel like 16 has a crafting system. I feel like it has a shop that makes you think it's crafting, but it's not. But I want to kind of, go back to what I was saying about how, like, this is the first action game that I've really played. I played 15. I don't know if I would really consider it action or turn-based. I guess more action.
I would consider it action, yeah.
I don't want us to necessarily have to only choose one. I feel like if one team can work on an action-focused game to give that satisfaction to people who want more action, there can be another team that works on a turn-based game as well. Like, Final Fantasy XVII can be turn-based, and then Final Fantasy XVIII can be action. We can have both. And I think what is exhausting for me, especially in this community, which I feel like, I will say, people have been very respectful during my playthrough of 16. No one has spoiled anything.
Yep.
Yeah, no one spoiled anything. Not a single person has backseated me. I've had people try to help and like give me hints, but I say no thank you, and it's been respected. It's really nice. But I want us to all not be at each other's throats. I think it's so unnecessary that it's not a Final Fantasy because it doesn't have this. It doesn't have that. Well, it's not turn-based. The gameplay style does not define what Final Fantasy is. And I'm so over, like, Twitter, for example. I'm just so over the internet. I've muted like 60 people, because it seems like people are getting their rocks off by getting mad at each other. And it is just not what I feel that the Final Fantasy community is about. And it's about story and love and friendship and acceptance.
You can have a healthy conversation about this game, what you like, what you dislike about it, what you want the series to become moving forward, as I feel like we're doing right now, and not be at each other's throats, without a doubt. I don't understand why people get so passionate about it to that degree where they start attacking each other.
It doesn't help the series as a whole. It's not going to attract new players when they see that kind of discord, you know what I mean?
Alluding to what Shoop was talking about there, I'm going to present an idea to Easily and Rare here that I presented to Shoop. We have 3 business divisions, right? Business Unit 3 just did Final Fantasy 16. What if they took a Call of Duty type approach? Not yearly, but let's say that they try to get it to a point where it's like, we have a Final Fantasy game every 3 years, not every 7 years. And every 3 years, it's a different business unit. And they specialize in a specific type of Final Fantasy, which is their passion. That team has a passion for doing action. This team has a passion for doing hybrid. This team has a passion for doing turn-based. And it would be rough for some people, right? Where it's like, no, this year is not my Final Fantasy. But if they get it tight enough where it's like, oh, they're only 3 years apart, then maybe it wouldn't be such a tough pill to swallow, right? Where it's like, we all get different types of Final Fantasy. The series continues to evolve and it continues to be what it's always been. What do you think of that, Easily?
I think if I like the idea of having the 3 teams where one does one on year 3, one does one on year 6, one does one year 9. I think that's really good because they can still spend that 9 years making each game, or 6 years, whatever it is, making each game, and it will divide it in a way where you get a fantastic product released, and they're each different. And you know what? If you don't like option A that comes out in year 3, you only have to wait 3 years, not 7 years, not 8 years, not 9 years, however long it is for the next one for you to try. And you know where you have these issues we have with 16, such as the lack of elemental effect in weaponry in terms of statuses and all those sort of things. Okay, they can fix that in one game because they've noticed it in another game, and that next team can go, people didn't like that, we'll apply it in their one. And it'll allow for more customization between each game and a better overall, I think, put it in a business perspective, customer experience as you're playing them.
Right.
I will always be like a turn-based simp, for lack of a better word. It's my bread and butter. But like, and I know anybody in my community personally can attest to this, that when I first started 16, like I was actually elated. Like I was very happy with myself. I felt like I accomplished something with myself because, and Chief, I don't have a command for it in my channel, but my mod, Chief Buttercup, will constantly type !action games because I have a clip of me that says, look, I can play action games. Like because I was worried when 16 first came out. I was scared. I was like, man, I'm going to make a total fool of myself. And I'm just going to be mashing buttons like I'm playing Tekken for the first time. And and I was like, oh no, I'm getting better at this. I know how to play these games now. This is great. Have I gotten a couple of game overs in what people define as an easy game? You bet your ass I have, because I don't play action games. But I have proved something to myself that I can do both. And I think both is a great place to be.
I want to go to Rare, of course, as well, with this idea, which I did not steal from Gemma Pell. I'm sorry, it did seem that way. That I stole it. Like literally at the exact same time I said in chat, or Gemma Pell said in chat, the idea for like taking the COD approach. I couldn't read your face when I was saying that, Rare. I'm curious how you feel about this idea of Square Enix really going all in on Final Fantasy, having multiple teams doing what they think Final Fantasy should be, right? And that's what I think it should be. I don't think any team should ever be forced to make a Final Fantasy they don't want to make, right? So if the unit that made 16 likes making action Final Fantasy, let them do that. Don't force them to do something they don't want to do. But I think all of us are willing to play any Final Fantasy, even if it's not my Final Fantasy, even if it's not turn-based or this or that. I'm going to play all of them anyway. But I think having multiple divisions doing different types would be kind of cool. What do you think?
I think that's an amazing idea in theory. I would sign the petition right now. I would like, let's expedite that. Let's get that a go. I don't think that will ever happen in practicality because I don't think they're thinking that way. I think the way they're thinking, like executive wise, is wow, we have done more like active action style, and look how many copies we sold. We're going to keep doing the same thing. I don't think they're ever going to go back to turn-based approaches. Maybe there'll be some like spin-off games, side games, but I don't know. I just feel like there's so few games that stick to like turn-based. Travis brought up Persona. I think it's one of like the few I could think of, like modern,
which has sold about 8 to 10 million copies now, by the way.
Oh, what?
Persona 5 Royal, if you add that on to Persona 5, we're approaching between 8 and 10 million copies of Persona 5 sold now. So it does show that there is a market still for turn-based, especially if you were to utilize it on a franchise as big as Final Fantasy. Is it going to do as well as Action? Probably not. I'm with you there. It concerns me, though. It does scare me a little bit that, 16 had a great start on a small install base. Let's say over the next 3 years or so, the legs bring it to sell like 12 million copies, the best-selling Final Fantasy game ever for its, base version. And they're like, we're done. We're not making any other type of Final Fantasy ever again except for action Final Fantasy. I would be disappointed in that. I don't know about you.
I would, but you would still buy the game.
I would, 100%. Yes,
Exactly.
I would buy it.
And that's the
I would
thing.
too.
Like I think they're gonna follow the money. Like I wish they would do that. Your approach sounds amazing, and I think there is a market for turn-based. I still love turn-based games, but I think with Final Fantasy, they're just interested in getting like a more wider and wider approach and appeal. And they see what works. They crunch the numbers. Like someone brought up a Final Fantasy FPS. I loved Dirge of Cerberus. I love that game. I thought it was really fun. Like, they're never gonna do that because that game sold like the opposite of hotcakes, cold cakes.
It's been memed so much that yeah.
They're never going to go for a Final Fantasy FPS type thing ever again. So I hate to be cynical. I hope I'm wrong. We'll see what the future holds. And I think being vocal is the key to like seeing any kind of change. But I think even more than like making giving them guff on Twitter, I think just, money is going to make the biggest influence on their decision. And I feel like Final Fantasy XVI success is going to encourage them to double down on this action approach more than anything.
You're probably not wrong.
Well, I was going to ask, Rare, outside of mainline titles, I know like you would love a Final Fantasy VI remake. Would you want it to get, as far as remakes go, would you want 6 to get the same treatment as 7? Would you want it to be like the hybrid style, or would you want it to stay true to its original roots of turn-based?
I mean, if we're talking about my Final Fantasies, I'd want it to like be original. However, I don't think it's going to be. I think it will be similar to 7 remake if they do remake it. Is that like my candy coated dreams? No, but
I will say the rumors right now, Rare, with 9 remake are that it's going to be classic ATB.
Oh, crossing my fingers, toes, and everything else.
Yeah.
Let me pose a question to you guys in terms of action versus turn-based. If you were to bring someone, say a friend of yours who's never touched the game before in their life, and you say, right, I want you to play this turn-based one, and I want you to play this action-based one, which one are they going to learn quickest? Probably action, because it's muscle memory, repetitiveness, no additional thought for 90% of that combat.
That's a tough question.
You're going to have to think.
I think it depends on what their previous experience with games is. If they're more experienced with action, they're going to pick up on action faster. With turn-based, I think they're going to pick up on turn-based faster.
I think it also depends on how they play it,
right?
Well. Because think about all the people that have played turn-based years after turn-based has kind of left us, and they're like, all you do is press X for attack, because that's literally all they do. Certain people, when they play turn-based Final Fantasy or even ATB, they go into every battle just hitting X over and over and over again to have the player just attack. And honestly, if you do that enough, you can get through the game. You might have a little bit of trouble towards the end if you literally just go through every battle doing that and don't grind at all, but some people can get through the game that way, and that sounds boring as hell. The reason that doesn't bore us is because we go into the fine-tuned systems of Final Fantasy, right? We take advantage of what RPGs have to offer, and we appreciate those aspects of it.
I think 10 is a great example on, like, at the beginning of 10, it really gives you a tutorial on elements and weaknesses, and like you've got one person who can pierce through armor, you've got another who can reach flying enemies, and it really like gives it to you on a silver platter holding kitten gloves. I found 10 to be one of the easiest of all of the series, in my personal opinion. But I've seen people who've never played a Final Fantasy game in their life that maybe didn't listen to these tutorials that literally walk you through it, kind of like I did with 7 Remake. I didn't listen to anything and I struggled. But I've watched a lot of people to play through 10 and they were like, this game was so hard. And like, I'm trying not to judge from a biased standpoint and thinking like, what about this was hard? but it wasn't hard for me because I've been playing it since I was 9 years old.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like at the same time, the people who don't have the experience with it aren't going to find it easy like I did. And I'm also not going to find 7 Remake easy because I don't have the same experience with it that some other people have as far as hybrid or action games go, you know?
Right.
So I think it's all about your own personal experience.
Go in the chat. I saw Taser come with a few things. First off, I saw Taser talking about like hard mode and the barrier there. Just to clarify, Taser, I agree with you. Actually, we're in agreement that there are certain times and places when it's right or not right, like jumping right into critical on Kingdom Hearts versus hard mode on 7 Remake, which is programmed to be completely different. And that's what I was alluding to. I didn't say 7 Remake, but when I was talking about, hey, your MP doesn't refill unless you go to a checkpoint, you know, things like that, that was 7 Remake I was alluding to. And I do think if you are going to lock hard mode behind a barrier, it does need to be a radically different experience for that mode that makes sense to come after the normal experience. But something like 16, if it's literally, and I don't know yet, but if it is what Shoop said, where it's like, well, the best weapon in the game is locked behind hard mode, that's even more annoying to me. Honestly, that makes me even more pissed off that they would do that. I think
it's a little rude.
Yeah, like that's just
it's
dumb.
It's a completionist nightmare.
Yeah, like you're gonna make me replay the whole game again, just so I can get the best weapon in the game. Like that's really frustrating to me. You make it, if you're gonna do that, you got to make it a radically different experience. As for me, and I'm completely biased on this, of course, I think I love turn-based, I love ATB, and I also love action so much that I do prefer the hybrid approach. I do think that 7 Remake was the closest to getting the future right. It wasn't perfect. I think there's ways to make it even better. And I do think 16 could also do some changes and become a great future for Final Fantasy. I'm with Rare in that I think, unfortunately, we're probably not going to go back to ATB turn-based at its like very core. But I do think that there are
be for a remake, possibly.
Maybe, yeah, like 9. But I think there's a way. Like I think there's a way to cater to a lot of different audiences and find that sweet spot in the middle. That's their job to figure that out. But I think we have already, Shoop and I know especially, and I think even you easily, maybe we were in chat when we were talking about it, we've dissected 16 and said ways that like, why didn't they do this? This could have been so much better. They could have added this element or that system. And I'm sure they would have made so much more of the overall fan base of Final Fantasy happy with these, I'll call them simple additions. They're not actually simple additions. Like making other characters controllable obviously isn't simple in execution. It's simple in concept, right? Where it's like, no, just make them playable. But obviously that would take a lot of work on the developers' end to make that happen.
I was going to say, I think, and I don't want to spoil anything for 16, but there have been moments in the game where you think, and I don't think it would have been as difficult to do this. I understand that it would have been difficult to control the entire party, but there have been moments where you are like teased with thinking, oh, I'm going to control somebody else for a brief time. I'm not going to control Clive right now. I'm finally going to get to control somebody else. And no, it just gives you a cutscene. And it's kind of like, I feel like they could have easily, I don't know how easily, I'm not a game dev, but I think they could have given you an opportunity to have pretty much the exact same controls as Clive with just a different character model. Like,
I mean, again, I'm not going to dive super deep. But the mechanics are there, right? The abilities are there. We see the side characters performing abilities in battle. Like they have those animations in place. They're just not tied to a controller button for us to initiate. So they're halfway there, right? They have the foundation of all these different characters that are in your party with you that you really can't control in any way, shape, or form. Like it's the bare minimal of that. Torgal is the only one that you have any control over whatsoever. You can't even like issue commands. You can't say, I want your AI to be more defense focused. You can't do anything with those other characters in this game. So it does feel like, it feels like a half measure in a lot of ways.
And I really, it's like banging my head against the wall on this one. We have elemental summons, elemental icons. Why do they not have elemental effects?
I was actually reading something the other day, and I'd have to pull it up to really confirm this, but I think they actually do have elemental vulnerabilities. But I didn't want to read...
they do, yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't want to read too much into it because it was further along in the game than I have gotten, and I didn't want to spoil myself on anything accidentally. That's the trouble. If I try and read like one thing about 16, like one little part that I've already passed, other people like in comments and like on Reddit threads and things will start going on a tangent about things that happen at the end of the game, and I'm like, okay, I cannot read anything clearly. So
I know that they
Classic.
do,
yeah,
but
classic.
it's not the same degree. Look at one of Clive's abilities. He literally uses a burning sword. Where's the burn after it? A chance to inflict a damage over time effect. You know, it's very, very small, minor little things that would have made it infinitely better.
When
I definitely would have
Moorball,
liked things like poison.
right,
Yeah, I was gonna
exactly.
say
When Moorball
Moorball
does bad breath
poison.
on you, why are you not poisoned? Like, what was the barrier there to make it so that Clive could not be poisoned in this game, and to have an item menu that allowed you to use an antidote? Like,
Well, it
there's
gives
literally
it gives
You
you an
had it in
item
7
menu to
Remake.
use tonics to like
right.
I know we keep going down this road again, I'm sorry.
No.
But like it gives you an item menu to use tonics to like buff your strength or buff your defense. I feel like you could have had a remedy. It doesn't even have to be antidote, echo screen, eye drops. It doesn't have to be all that. But just one item that would have covered status ailments, like a remedy, would have been great.
But let's dive into this. Like, think about it. There's almost every status ailment that you can have in Final Fantasy they could have made work in this game, right? They could have made it so that you are silenced and you can't use certain icons for until you use an echo screen. They could have had Moorball poison you and you have to use an antidote. They could have had eye drops for blindness. Not that the entire screen goes black, but maybe it goes a little bit dirty around the edges or something. You know what I mean? There's a way that they could have made all these different status ailments work within the game. Maybe they wanted you to use hotkeys for items, but let's put it this way. You use left on the directional pad to switch to Torgal, right? You switch back and forth between Torgal and items. Let's say you just hold down left on the directional pad, and it opens up a menu that you can quickly go within and use an antidote. It would be as simple as that. It would literally be as simple as that to open up the full menu with holding down left on the directional pad, incorporate all the status elements, allow us to go into menus, use items, because that is such an important aspect to me of what makes Final Fantasy Final Fantasy. It really is. Like,
Not
it
just
feels
Final
like it's
Fantasy,
missing
but
it.
RPGs in general.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, one of the big ones I'm in agreement of is with Drew when it comes to weapon effects and what benefit do you have for crafting better weapons other than damage and higher stagger rates? I'm going to use an example from 9. There is an end game boss that Freya can use her strongest weapon in the game, which technically has 15 more damage than her Holy Lance. Her Holy Lance does more damage because you buff the holy damage on the enemy, and it's weak to holy damage. So she does 2,000 damage more in attack because of that little bit of information, that little bit of extra. And I know it's a lot more coding, but it's just a nice, you're rewarded for learning this, that, or figuring that out, or having a bit of thought. There's no thought in the weapon in this. It's, as you said, a shop with a little bit of frilliness.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's not like that's asking for a lot. I feel like this is common in like almost every single game at this point.
Yeah, I don't think it's asking for a lot either. I think it's very basic. Even if, like I said, if they didn't give us antidotes, eye drops, all that fun stuff, like a blanket remedy
Yeah, it would
for
be
any
something
kind of
at least.
status ailment, like use something to get rid of this.
Yeah, again, it feels like this one was the first in what the series might become, and it feels like a half measure for that reason, because I see the path in my head of like how this could be taken as a base, make 17 this or whatever they want to do, make 17, 18, 19, whatever this, but with controllable characters, status elements, more depth to the crafting system, more depth to the weapon and armor system, and we're on our way. We're on our way. Like, it's a great start. It's a really great start, and I'm still very optimistic for the future of this franchise, because I think what is there is very tight. I think because it is a half measure, it gets repetitive, it gets a little mundane, it gets a little samey by halfway through the game, where I'm like, all right, these battles, like, I'm on speed. I'm on autopilot at this point. Like, they're all the same exact thing. Like, I'm doing the exact same patterns to initiate a stagger. It's just the same thing over and over again by even halfway through. So I think that added depth would have gotten us through what is ultimately, we're all experiencing, like a 70, 80 hour game. That's the problem, is this game is long. It really is. It's much beefier.
I have 100 hours logged into it.
It's a lot beefier than I thought it was going to be. And it made me think. I was watching Jin play Crisis Core today, and I was like, Crisis Core only allows you to play one character. Why didn't it bother me with Crisis Core? And I thought about it, and I was like, probably because the game only takes like 18 hours. Like, it doesn't overstay its welcome. I don't get bored with the mechanics that they gave to me. Also, by the way, it has all the mechanics of a typical RPG. It has the status ailments, it has the items, it has all that, and it doesn't overstay its welcome. It doesn't go beyond like 18 hours. So I think that might be the differentiating factor for me, is that this game, for what is available, for the depth that it provides, it overstays its welcome.
I want to kind of touch on the overstay its welcome line, right? So raise your hand. Obviously, Rare, you haven't played this, but for those of us who have played 16, and you can, I don't know, just say me in chat, or type a 1 in chat if you have done this. Have you skipped dialogue in Final Fantasy 16? Raise your hand.
You literally told me off for it. Shoot, you literally yelled at me for it.
At first I did. And here's my thing though, and I was annoyed with Drew too.
The side quest was so.
Oh man.
I was annoyed with Drew and Easley originally for skipping dialogue. I was like, don't skip dialogue. What are you doing? How dare you skip dialogue? The more I played 16, the more I understood. Maybe I just have more patience than these two, but like I got to a point where it was like, I'll talk about a side quest, right? Just a blanket random side quest. This person gives you side quest, you agree to do said side quest, and then the person continues to talk about not even why you're doing the side quest, but just talking but not saying anything.
Pretty much reiterating,
reiterating over and over again. And this goes on, reiterates probably 3 times before you're able to even start the side quest to go on about your business.
Today, Junior, it's like, just go.
And don't even get me started on the fact that some of them are repeat quests.
Yeah.
There is, yes. There's one that and that kind of bothered me, that you go back to the same person because they have another quest for you, and you think, oh, cool, I get to help this person again with something else. It's literally the exact same quest. And I'm like, wait, we already did this 3, 4, or 5 hours ago. But my issue with it is that I love when voice acting is done well. 16 does the voice acting really well. Everyone puts their all into their voices.
Oh yeah,
but amazing. they're not saying anything. And if they are saying something, it's the same thing that they said a minute ago and then 30 seconds
This reminds
ago.
me, we've had a lot of good conversations about 16 this month, because I just remembered another one in my head that I had with you, Shoop. The difference between verbosity, I'm not sure how to say it, in this versus something like Game of Thrones, right? Because Game of Thrones is very verbose, right? It's a lot of dialogue. Sometimes it goes on really long times, just like 16 does, where it's like, oh man, they're just saying so many words here, and a lot of like long pauses and this and that, a lot of dramatic effect. But it never bothered me with Game of Thrones. If anything, the further Game of Thrones went into the series, the more I was bothered that the show wasn't doing that anymore. There was not studies, but more statistics on this, where they calculated the words per minute said. It
feels like somebody trying to fit in more words to finish an essay for like a college paper.
Right. It does kind of feel like that, because in Game of Thrones, in the first season especially, the most words per minute, right? And you can literally see episode by episode, especially season by season, the decline in words per minute of that series. And it directly correlated with how much I liked that show. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, why then do I not like how verbose 16 is? And the reason is that I've come up in my head is the difference between actively consuming content and passively consuming content. That is the difference. When you're watching a TV show, you are just sitting there taking it in, right? But when you're playing Final Fantasy and you're going in between battles and in between side quests and this like that, when you got this person that's literally pausing, droning, taking seconds between words, it's like,
you just want to go.
Let's go.
That's it.
Let's go. Like, this is taking too long. You got it. And I think that is maybe where it went wrong for them. Is I do know, and they've come out and said, this is not me, like, making something up here. They've said that they literally made the developers of this game watch Game of Thrones seasons 1 through 4. Like, they made them watch Game of Thrones seasons 1 through 4, the most verbose seasons of that show, and it clearly inspired them. And I think it inspired them to a detrimental degree.
I don't mind verbose as long as it has a significant point. It has meaning. Again, this goes back to the very beginning of the podcast tonight, where I said that some things felt meaningless droning dialogue to me is meaningless, and I feel like there is a certain part in the game that made me, I don't want to say dislike the game because I really adore 16, but if I replay 16, there is a certain part, and I'm just going to say like the territory. It was in Dalmekia, so I don't spoil anything for people. There was about 2 to 3 hours, and I told Drew afterwards that I was bored to tears, and I really wish that I had skipped through all the dialogue. And I lovingly advised Drew that when he got to this point in the game, that a lot of the stuff is not going to have meaning, and you're not going to miss too much if you just read the dialogue on text and not wait for the NPC to say it like this, because it does drone.
Yeah.
And I think it's okay. I don't think there's anything wrong, not necessarily skipping the dialogue so that you don't take in any of the information, but there's nothing wrong with if you prefer to read it on screen and not let them finish their sentence out loud to proceed. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because it's very, very drawn out.
I'm sorry to interject, but I think we're going to keep going in circles at some point.
I'm sorry.
We're talking a lot about 16, especially now, and I feel like I don't want to cut Rare out of the conversation too much, especially. And to Taser and chat, we are about to literally take a little breather right now so that we can prepare for our next segment in the show. I'm sorry that we missed a lot of chat on that one. I'll give you guys a reminder right now. If you have a question directly related to 16 that's not spoiler related, take advantage of the Moogle mailbox. We are going to get to that at the very end of the show to answer your 16, questions.
But to anything.
Yeah.
Any questions you want to ask us, you can ping us individually. You can ping us as a group, like whatever you want.
Yeah. But right now, guys, let's take it's probably going to be about a 5-minute break. We're going to bring our next special guest on the show, and we're going to come back with one of our favorite segments, of course, Final Fantasy Jeopardy. So to all of you, just hold on tight. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody, to Crystal Bearers, Episode 3, a Final Fantasy talk show. Thanks for sticking around. Sorry for the long commercial break there. We want to welcome in our very special 4th guest of the night. We have Chad Music here as well. How you doing, Chad?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing awesome. It's good to have you. Thank you for joining us. If you guys don't know Chad Music, spectacular variety streamer, playing Final Fantasy IX Magori mod right now, which is just so good. How are you feeling about 9? Is it your first playthrough? Is it multiple times now? Where are you at?
So this is pretty much my second playthrough. I think my first playthrough was back in 2020, and I remember at the time it was my first playthrough. I just finished Final Fantasy VIII, and then we moved right into 9, and I just kind of breezed through it. I didn't do any Chocobo hot and cold. I hardly did any like ability grinding. It was definitely something like I felt like I was not really experiencing this game, and now we are playing it again with the Mogiri mod, and I'm really, really, really doing everything. I'm doing the hot and cold. I'm getting all the abilities, and I'm finally like understanding a little bit more of like what's going on in this story, because it's a lot. There's a lot like kind of going on.
Yeah, definitely. It's a beautiful mod though. The way it makes that game look is just unbelievable. Honestly,
it makes it look like a new game, like an indie developed game today.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like a PlayStation game anymore.
It really doesn't.
I've only seen pieces of people playing it, because one day I want to play it myself. But it's so pretty, especially with the backgrounds. It's just really pretty.
It's all HD, like it's so clean.
It's so good actually that it makes me wonder, like, how do they top it if they do a remake? It looks so good.
Yeah, I kind of agree, because I'm playing it right now, and there's always discussion, especially if people come in, they say I can't wait for them to remake this game. I'm playing it right now. I don't personally, maybe this is just me, this might be a hot take, but like I don't think they need to do anything. I don't think they need to remake this game, because this is like the best kind of version. All the characters look like the way that they should look. The game's backgrounds are all very clean. Like if you would remake it, I would kind of just want it to look like that anyways.
Yep.
But
I get it. Easily, what were you going to say? Sorry.
I was going to say, with the Moguri, when you can add the Echo S mod with it when they fully release that as well, and you'd be able to have a fully voice mod, fully updated graphical version of 9.
It's basically a remake at that point.
Make your own remaster.
That's why it's funny that B just said that in chat too. B said just play Maguri mod paired with Echo S mod. He easily knows.
I'm literally doing it. That's when I play the Echo S demo. I'm gonna put the Moguri with it.
Well, right now we're going to get into one of my favorite parts of the show. It is time, everybody, for a little bit of Final Fantasy Jeopardy. I am not your host tonight. Oh no, all of your cameras are messed up though.
Oh.
Oh, we're very skinny.
They're very skinny.
Oh,
Well,
lost
Easley's
weight.
going to be in control tonight. I will try to fix that in the background. I don't know why you guys are skinny. I will try to fix
Someone
that in the
cast
background.
Mini on us.
I was
Yes.
trying to lose weight anyway, so that works.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us what the categories are tonight while I fix that
Okay.
easily?
So, as you see at the top, we have entering in style. Basically, that category is statements or music, which is the opening for a character or a boss encounter. And you'll have to guess what the boss or character is. Wait, Where Am I? Is blurred images of certain locations in Final Fantasies. What is your weapon of choice? Very nice and simple. You identify the weapon based on the image or the statement. Now that's what I call magic, is the abilities used by summons. Okay, specifically summons. You will have to guess what summon uses that ability. And final finisher is all around limit breaks, overdrives, trances. The board is specifically catered for Final Fantasy 7 through 10 with one question from Final Fantasy 1.
Okay.
Okay?
Rare's like, where's my 6?
I don't know 6 well enough, Rare. I apologize.
I'll take
Uh,
7 through 10. I'm all right with that.
This,
Yeah,
okay.
what is it they call the golden era?
this
golden
might take
era?
me a second. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this quickly. It's really messed up. I don't know what you guys want me to do here.
Drew has my camera covering like half of the category.
I've got to
Final
reset each of your
Finisher.
cameras. I mean, I can do it in like a minute if you guys just want to like spitball for a second. That way you guys are visible.
We could.
You know?
We could.
Go ahead,
Chad,
spitball.
why
I'm
don't
doing the best I
real
can
quick?
here.
I want to ask Chad, what is your game percentage in 16 at the moment? Because I know you're kind of sort of
Oh
starting
gosh.
16 off.
So I don't even think I could tell you the percentage. If I had to guess, I would probably say the 20s because
Okay.
I have really only been playing this game like once a week, if that.
You're
I'm
very
like playing
early.
it, and it was interesting hearing you guys talk about it because when you play it in a way where you are just getting a lot of dialogue, a lot of cutscenes, a lot of the gameplay, a lot of everything all at once, it can feel like a very, very heady, long experience. But I'm playing this game like one episode of Game of Thrones a week.
Oh God.
Okay. Okay.
Really nice, only because of my crazy job, which I'm definitely going to be leaving very soon and like kind of getting more back to what I was used to doing. It's going to be good. I got a lot of changes going on, but playing Final Fantasy 16 in the midst of all that has been like my little private piece of joy. And
Oh.
I would say, I guess I can't really talk spoilers, but I'm still very early in the game. So far, the level of everything, I don't know how they're going to top it. I don't know what Final Fantasy 17 could even potentially look like, given the level of like bombasticness of 16.
That's how I felt
that's
really
a very
early
fair
on as well.
comment.
Yeah.
I mean,
The level of scale is insane. It's
the icon battles, the writing specifically, the facial expressions, even they did. I don't know what kind of magic Square Enix is working with, but I've never seen their games look like that with that level
I
of
was
detail.
gonna say this isn't a spoiler because it was in all the 16 trailers for the most part. One in particular. There's a moment where you see this look on Shiva's face. When you said facial expressions, I thought about Shiva when
Yeah.
she has this look of fear
Mhm.
and then this angry look of determination. You can see, and I've noticed this in other characters when they get angry, they put the wrinkles right here on their nose.
It's so cool. It's like
especially
really like
Benedicta.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Benedicta with her nose wrinkles are like one of my favorite things.
it's so cool.
It is very cool. I got it fixed. I did it.
Okay,
Hey.
we're all
Fix it.
sorted.
Yay! We can see everybody now. All right, easily. You are Alex Trebek this week. So
Okay.
take it away.
So, as
Let's
our
talk.
most recent guest tonight, Chad, I would like you to start. Where would you like to go?
Oh my goodness. I will take. Now that's what I call magic for 200.
Okay. Which summon
Oh.
uses that ability? I believe that is the. Is that baby elephant?
Baby
that's
elephant.
Baby elephant.
That's me. I'm Shoop.
Yep.
Baby
shoot.
elephant's me. That is Ark from Final Fantasy IX.
That is correct. Okay.
Oh, I've got to do it. Oh god, this is gonna be tough.
Yeah,
All right.
you've got to do it.
Okay,
but that is
hold on.
correct.
Yay! Arc Final Fantasy IX.
Woo!
All right, this is gonna be tough for me. Honestly, I also did not hear any of what the categories are about, so I was like, I don't even know what I'm supposed to do right now.
Do you want to? Can we refresh Drew on what the categories are about?
Yeah, I can do a very quick one.
Kitty.
Um,
Sorry.
So, Drew, entering in style is statements or music, which
Okay.
is the opening for a character or a boss encounter.
Okay.
Wait, where am I? Is blurred images of locations.
Okay.
What is your weapon of choice? You identify the weapon based on the image or text that goes with it.
Okay.
Now that's what I call magic, is abilities used by summons only.
Okay.
And final finisher is all around limit breaks, overdrives, and trances.
Ooh,
And
okay.
these are all questions based around Final Fantasy 7 through 10, apart from one question which is based on Final Fantasy 1.
Okay. All right. All right. I'm ready. Not ready.
Okay.
But go ahead.
Shoot.
I'm gonna stick with this category now. That's what I call magic for 100, please.
100. Okay. Okay. Which summon uses that ability? And I want the specific summon.
Looks like Shoop.
Is it me?
Uh-huh.
Yes, that is Shoop. Yep, that is
It's Mindy from the Mega Sisters.
correct. That is Mindy from the Mega Sisters in Final Fantasy 9.
Y'all are
nice.
good at this game.
Shoop.
We'll keep with it. 300. Now that's what I call magic.
Okay, so for 300, which summon uses Black Cauldron? That is Cacta.
I'm going to say Hades.
You are correct. That is Hades from Final Fantasy 7.
Holy moly!
I didn't know that
Yes.
one at all.
I was like so almost. Maybe that's not the right answer, but I got
I
it.
saw Black Cauldron. I thought of that little cartoon that came out like years ago. It was kind of like the Dark Crystal, but not.
The Disney movie?
Yeah, you remember the Black Cauldron?
Yes, I do.
All right, Chad, you're in control.
Okay, Chad.
Oh
Next to you.
boy. I'll
Where would
take
you like to go?
entering in style for 100.
Okay, entering style for 100. Okay, which boss from which Final Fantasy opens with this line, "Pitiful mortal, your hope ends here"? And I would like to know the specific boss in the specific game.
Oh god.
Man, oh man.
I buzzed in.
Yes, you did, Baby Elephant.
I saw Pitiful Mortal and I knew immediately. And your hope ends here, and your meaningless existence with it.
Yep.
It is Seymour Flux from Final Fantasy X.
I knew
Correct.
it was Seymour. I was scared.
Yeah.
Oh god, there's a
Oh,
sound
we
that
get
goes
to
with
hear
it.
it.
Yeah, there is a little sound with it. Yep.
I didn't need to hear that. I didn't need that.
I wouldn't have been able to done the specific
Reminder
one.
of
I knew it was Seymour, but I was like, I don't know which version.
The trauma of hearing that so many times as a 10-year-old.
That's why it was only for 100, because you would have heard it repeatedly. Okay, Shoop.
I'm gonna stick with entering in style as well for 200.
Okay. Before you fight this boss, it says, and then no more weapons like this puppet here will be made. Who or what is it, and which Final Fantasy is it from? That is Broccoli.
It's Kuja, Final Fantasy IX.
No, it is not.
Is it mine?
Yep.
That is
you're up.
Baby Elephant. Yep. Yep.
It is from Final Fantasy IX. Sorry, there's a fruit
Yes,
fan
it
on my-
is correct.
I'm not sure which one it is. I'm gonna say Black Waltz number 2.
Nope. They do mention Kuja, but it is not that either.
Interesting.
I was
Anyone
gonna say
else?
the. I'm not gonna guess, but I was gonna say the third Black Waltz, but I guess not.
If you guys don't have it, no. It is Soul Cage.
Oh, yeah.
from Final
Oh,
Fantasy
and the
IX.
Eupha tree. Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
yeah, okay.
Okay, that stays with Shoop.
Let's go to wait. Where am I for 100?
Okay. Should be somewhat obvious, I feel.
I think it's me, right?
Is it? Yes, it is you,
I
yes.
think it's Besaid.
You are correct. It is
Okay.
Besaid Village.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
It was so like
The hut on the
blurred.
right.
That was the hut on
all
the
of
right.
them, all
That
of
was
them will be
tough.
quite hard to see.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
good.
I'm gonna stick with it. I guess I'm gonna go. Wait, where
Okay.
am I for 200?
Okay. What is this?
I want to say that's me again. I want to say that's Wall Market in 7 Remake.
I would like a specific location.
It's Don Corneo's mansion.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Making this difficult. All right. All right. I'm gonna
Okay,
go
still
He's
with.
like a hard board. What the heck?
Yeah.
Sorry. It is.
I haven't played Final Fantasy games in like I don't know, like probably 6 or 7 years too. So I'm like, oh my god, the specifics.
All right. I'm gonna stick
Okay.
with wait, where am I for 300?
Okay. Where is this location?
Okay, that is the.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, that is the Moogle.
It is. I'm gonna say it's the desert prison in Final Fantasy VII.
It is. It is Coral Prison
Coral
from Final
Prison.
Fantasy VII, which is called. I'll accept Desert Prison. It's in the desert.
Would the answer
Um,
mountains work? Because that looks like it's in the mountains.
No, it would not.
Coral Prison.
All right, I'm doing pretty good at this so far, so I'm gonna stick with
Okay.
wait, where am I for 400?
Okay.
Is that me?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, that is Baby Elephant.
That is Chocobo's Paradise in Final Fantasy IX.
Correct. It is.
Whoa.
Nice work.
Okay. And it's still with Shoop.
Let's finish out this category because I don't like it. Wait, where am I? For
Okay.
500.
Okay. Yep. It's just Shoop's face. It's like what?
I should not. I
That
should not
is
have
Drupal?
clicked. It's I don't know that I know the name right. I want to say it's Shumi Village from Final Fantasy VIII.
Correct. It is.
That's what that's why when I was looking at it, I'm like, I know this. I spent so much time drawing Ultima from that draw point.
Right, I'm done.
I was gonna say Sin, to be honest. I was gonna say
It's just
Yeah,
like
I was
Sin.
gonna say
I was gonna say the back of
What is
Sin.
that?
Some of them will
let's
get
see.
easier. Certain categories are easier.
Thank God.
I feel extreme anxiety right now. I'm gonna go with what is your weapon of is it choice? I can't really even say.
Yep.
Yeah, weapon of choice. What is your weapon of choice for 100?
Okay. Yep. What is that weapon?
Ooh, I
And
know
which
it,
Final
but-
Fantasy? That is on Baby Elephant.
That is the I don't know how to pronounce it properly, but it's the Khalid Bulg from Final Fantasy X.
Correct. It is.
It's Titus's celestial.
Hold on.
Yes.
I'm losing my train of thought. Here we go. Okay.
You guys have to understand that Easley is Alex Trebek, but Drew is the one who has to click everything.
Yeah,
He's the
I'm
one
like
streaming
doing
it.
both at the same time too. I'm trying to play the game and control the game at the same time. It's not going well. All right, guys.
I want to go back to now. That's what I call magic for 400.
Okay. Now let's talk on Magic 400. What summon uses that ability? GeForce
Oh my
199.
I know this.
God,
Damn it! I should have
it's-
clicked.
That is on Baby Elephant.
Artemis from 9. Final Fantasy
Yes,
9.
it is.
And that move always misses. Is it coded wrong?
No, it does hit occasionally.
I've never had that move hit. I just don't summon him anymore. Let's finish out the category for now. It's what I call magic for 500.
Okay. What summon uses that attack?
Is it
It's Baby Elephant. Yeah.
I've got that on Baby Elephant, yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm a quick buzzer. Is it Gilgamesh from 8?
It is, yes.
There's a
I
failed
thought
attack.
you might struggle with that one, but yeah, it is. That is the failed attack that
I
Gilgamesh
would
uses.
have if I hadn't just recently made a joke about it with my friend Chief.
He also does use
He uses Excalibur as well.
he tries to use Xantisuken, on boss encounters, so it misses as well.
Oh god. Let's do. What's your weapon of choice for 200?
Okay. What is your weapon of choice? Name this sword.
I mean,
That is on Droogle.
it is the Buster Sword.
Correct.
You guys are so fast.
I mean, I had to get that one.
I was hoping so.
Okay.
Okay, Droogle.
I guess what is your weapon of choice for 300?
Okay. What is the strongest weapon in Final Fantasy I?
I'm
God.
gonna take a
that is on
guess
Droogle,
here,
yes.
actually, just because I think it's as simple as this. Was it Excalibur?
No, it is not.
Oh, that's what I was gonna guess.
Okay. That's broccoli. Does that what? Are you
Guess something
suggesting
else.
again?
Guess something
I
different.
was gonna say Excalibur too, but I'll guess. Whew. Strongest weapon in Final Fantasy One. I was.
It's the standard version of one, from my knowledge.
I'm stuck between Masamune and just Ultima. Maybe it was called
Right.
Ultima. I don't remember. I'm gonna guess Ultima weapon.
Nope.
No.
Nope. Anyone else? That's on Baby Elephant.
I'm gonna say Masamune because it was in the
Yes,
Pixel
it is.
remaster.
It was
No! Come on!
It had to be one of them.
As
As soon as she said, I was like, please say Masamune. Come on, Rare.
as soon as
I
you
was
said it, I was
stuck
like,
between
oh.
it too. I was like, because I know it's a strong one. I didn't know if it was like the strongest one. Oh.
It's funny because when
Okay.
I played through one, I gave my Masamune to my ninja, and some random person that I had never met before was like, "Why would you do that? They need to be barefisted." I'm like, "They've been naked the whole game. Let them have a sword." I'm gonna do. What is your weapon of choice for 400?
Okay. What weapon is both a whip in Final Fantasy VIII and a sword in Final Fantasy IX?
Oh man. Can I clarify? Is it a sword or a dagger in 9?
It is a sword. You can craft the sword in endgame.
Can I just guess, or is it everyone gonna laugh at me? Since I'm
You
already
can
in the
guess.
lead.
You would lose points, but you can guess.
Well,
if
if
you
she
get it
doesn't
wrong.
buzz in, the time's already up anyway.
Yeah, we're already.
Yeah,
No,
the time is up.
Go
Okay.
ahead,
Do you
Ray.
want to have a free guess and see?
I was gonna just guess like save the queen or something.
That is exactly it.
Ah! Can we give it to her?
Give her the points. Yeah.
Yes, give her the points. Give her the points.
400, right? 400.
I was literally.
Yeah, it's 400.
I couldn't remember specifically, but that stuck out to me, and I was like, I don't want to look silly in front of everyone. God damn it.
That's
Little
awesome.
did
It
you know
is-
that your instinct was spot on.
That's
It is
awesome.
a
Ugh.
Kistis weapon and a Beatrix weapon, and you cannot use it in 9, but you do make it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Rare, we'll let you go for this one.
Oh wait, for real?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got it. You
Oh
got it.
God. All right, let's go for the 500. I'll try to follow my.
Okay,
instinct
what
this
is your
time.
weapon? 500. What weapon is used by a legendary knight to instantly kill enemies? I don't know why I put that for 500, but that is broccoli.
So generate is it Zentetsuken?
It is. I don't know why I put that for 500. It shouldn't have been.
Wait, for real?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that was the name of the weapon.
Yeah, in all honesty, I didn't know that was the name of the sword. I just thought that was the name of the attack.
Me too.
No, that is
I'm
the name
over
of the weapon, but it also goes by another name, but it can go by another name as well. It depends on which version of Odin you go with, but the common name of the weapon is also the name of the ability.
Huh.
Mm.
I'm over here trying to remember
Odin.
Odin's horse's name.
Yeah, I was like Sleipnir is the name of
Yeah.
the horse, but
Okay, Rhett?
Oh,
Where
I
would you
get
like
to
to
go
go?
again? Okay. Final finisher for 100.
Okay. What character uses all creation?
That's got to be something from 7, right? Like,
Sounds like it, yeah. It's on the tip of my tongue. I don't want to guess. I don't want to lose to Gil.
It's only 100. Come on, Drew.
That's on
I dare
broccoli.
ya.
I'm just gonna guess Sephiroth.
Go on. No.
Now that the time's up, for some reason I want to
Correct
say
game
it's like,
though.
I want to say it's Yuffie, but
That's what I was
Correct.
gonna say too.
It
Okay.
is
Oh, you're
Yuffie.
right.
Yeah.
It
That's a
is. That
Yuffie
is her
movie?
final. That's her final limit break.
You're right. I remember now that you said it.
all right. I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna give the points to myself.
Okay, Rare, that stays with you. Where would you like to go?
Let's do final finisher for 200. Let's stay in the category.
Okay. Grand Lethal is this person's strongest limit. Okay, that's Baby Elephant straight away.
No, you can finish reading it if
It's
you
an
want.
easy one.
Nope. You go.
Grand Lethal is Zidane's strongest limit trance from Final Fantasy IX.
Correct, it is.
I'm sorry. I see a 9 or a 10 question. I'm like, yeah, final finisher for 300.
Okay, 300. Okay, who can use Doom for their limit/overdrive/chance? And that is Baby Elephant.
A lot of 9 questions here.
This is not 9.
That's not 9.
This is 10, and it's.
Oh, okay. It's all
Kamari.
trance, and I was
Oh,
like,
It is Kamari, yes.
Kamari.
Right.
You know, what's funny
It
is
is.
I was like, oh, I shouldn't have buzzed in because I was about to say Quina, but Quina uses it as blue magic, not as an overdrive.
Exactly, yes.
Final
Okay.
finisher for 400.
Okay, for 400. 3 characters use a slot type limit break. 1 is named Slot and 2 are named Slots. Who uses them? And I want all 3 characters.
Ooh.
I think I know 2 of them. I'm not gonna. I don't know. That I know the
Yeah,
third.
I definitely know 2 of them.
I should not have buzzed in, but
You
Okay,
did.
go on.
All right, so there's one Kate Sith.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's another one. Oh, Tifa has slots, but it's not Tifa. They wouldn't be 2 from 7. See, is another one Selfie?
Yep.
Ooh, yay.
And who is the third one?
Damn.
Sephiroth!
Imagine.
Imagine.
I shouldn't have.
Alright.
I should not
Big
have
money,
buzzed
big
in.
money.
I shouldn't have buzzed in.
Throw out a third name. Just do it.
Tifa has a limit break, but it's not called slots.
I will tell you it is not from 7 or 8 because there's one from each of the 3 games.
Is it Quina? I don't know.
Well,
No.
I know who it is.
No.
Oh my god, I know who
I
it is.
know who it is.
Can he
Okay.
phone a friend?
You can
Well,
phone a
Chad,
friend.
you
Who
can
would you
take
like to
advantage
phone?
now.
Okay, this goes to Cactar, so that
You're gonna
is
give it
Chad,
to
I
me?
believe.
I'm gonna say Waka.
Yes!
Oh,
It is
yeah,
Waka,
of
yes.
course. Yeah.
Waka's Overdrive is named Slots,
Yep.
but it goes to Reels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yep.
Okay. So Chad, where would you like to go?
Entering in style for 300.
This should be a sound, I believe. Okay. Who named
I know which
the
one it's
character
from.
that sound?
I really should know this.
Yeah, I know which one it's
Sephiroth.
from. Name this character?
Yes. When you enter a certain room in a certain building, that music plays, and it is the room where you find this character.
Can you replay it for us?
I
I
mean,
believe Drew can.
I can replay it. Yeah, I buzzed in.
Oh, you buzzed. Okay, yes, go.
But I'll let you guys listen to it again.
It's not playing.
Oh, I know
replay
what it
myself.
is. Yeah. It's Vincent.
It is Vincent, yes.
Oof.
Yeah, Vincent Valentine.
Okay. Druggle.
I knew
in
it
your
was.
hand.
I was like, well, I don't know why I didn't think that. I knew it was a Shinra basement, like the mansion basement. I was like, why? Like, I was like thinking of Sephiroth because he's in the library, reading, and I was like,
Yep.
but it's not Sephiroth's theme. This is, those chosen by the planet. Took me a second there. All right, I'm gonna do entering style for 400.
Okay. Entering style 400.
This is it. Now is the time
Okay.
to choose. Die and be free of pain,
I'll let it finish.
Fight your sorrow.
It made me
Okay, Druga's
jump.
already buzzed in.
It made me
Okay,
jump.
It's Unalesca.
it is Unalesca, yes.
Oh, live and fight your sorrow.
I put it in because I knew how much you'd find it funny that it was there.
I can't believe I got there in time. I thought for sure Shoop would get there in time. I had to go to the other side of the screen and
I
everything.
know, I jumped, and then I was like, oh, I need to put this in, because Orange just screamed at me. I was like, okay.
All right, entering in style for 500.
Okay.
I know it. I don't know if I should say
Yeah,
it.
you've buzzed as the sound finished.
It's the legendary beast. It's against Griever.
The song is not legendary. But yes, it is against Griever.
Oh yeah, it's not. What is this? Is oh, what's the name of the song though?
It is. Where was it?
Well, don't say it.
Oh no! Actually, it is. Yeah,
Alright.
you're right. You are correct. Sorry. Yeah,
It's
you're
legendary
correct.
beast. Okay, I thought so.
It is. Yeah. But you definitely got the boss fight, and that's correct.
Okay. All right.
Okay, Jurgle. Last one then.
Final
Final finisher. During the limit/overdrive/trance, this character can involuntarily use Nightmare, which inflicts sleep, poison, confuse, silence, frog, and small to a target.
Oh my god.
Who uses that, and what is the limit break?
Marbro, bad breath.
I think I know what it might be, but I don't want it. It's a 500. I don't think I can take the
I have
chance.
no idea.
I'll take a guess. Well, the time is already up, but can I just take a guess?
I'll give you a hint on the game if you want to take a guess. It is from Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, it's Kate Sith's slots, isn't it?
No.
No, it's not. Okay, glad I didn't guess.
Nope.
I thought one of
Is
his
it-
slots could result in that.
I don't want to guess and be wrong, but I think I have an idea of who it
It,
is.
it doesn't matter at this point anyway. Time's
Yeah, this
up.
one,
So.
you're not going to lose points.
Yeah.
But
Vincent?
if you get it right, you can have the points.
Is it Vincent?
That's what I
It
was
is.
gonna say.
Hey,
Which
we'll give it to you.
Have you already clicked or?
I'll give it. No, I'll give it.
No,
to
no,
Chad.
no. Which one of his?
Oh,
limits
which one
is
of his?
it?
Oh,
I want to say the Frankenstein monster. I don't know it by name, but I want to.
Yeah, that's the right one.
Yes.
It's his third one. Yes.
Yes, thank you. Okay.
It is. I think it was Hellmasker. Or
Hal Master.
Yes.
yeah.
I'm glad I didn't guess.
Good on you, Chad.
Thank you.
Okay.
I was
So we got the final factal time.
hmm
So can you all actually enter your?
Is there a category?
Okay. So the category is around a boss encounter in Final Fantasy 7 through 10. One of those encounters. Technically any Final Fantasy, but
Or
answer's
is
in
this
one of
going to
those
be
games.
abilities? Is this going to be the name, like the boss itself? Is this
it's going to be about a boss,
Okay.
and you will have to guess what the boss is.
Okay. Um.
I'm scared.
Scared.
Mom, come pick me up. I'm scared.
There's 3.
Hmm.
I don't know how easy you'll find the question at all. I don't know how well you'll know the answer, but
If it's
Is
a
that-
7
that's
question,
everyone?
I'm screwed.
Yep.
Yeah.
okay. So
Oh, I have to
Final
click.
is-
Sorry, I have to click play now. Okay. Here we go.
which boss in any Final Fantasy has the lowest HP of only 1? Yes, 1 HP. And it is a final boss encounter. I just love Shoop's face is like, what?
You said this is only 7 through 10?
The answer is in 7 through 10, but it technically is of any.
This is a final boss?
This is a final boss, final encounter in the game.
I know 10's HP. I know 9's HP.
When you get the answer, you'll realize why.
I probably got this wrong, but that's the only guess that I have.
1 HP.
Yeah, rare. Me too. I'm like, what? I don't know.
No idea.
Technically, you don't have a way to see his HP ever, but they figured out a way to find out his HP.
I definitely got it wrong. There's no way.
Oh, you have to enter your answer.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Just spelling count, because
No,
I-
as long as it's vaguely right, I'll know if you're right or wrong from what you type.
I don't think I got it. There's no way.
Just waiting on.
I don't know what to type. I
Chad.
don't know.
I just guessed the random final boss. I was like,
Are we all
Alright.
locked in?
Okay, we got it all.
All right.
The
I'll
answer-
reveal my answer first.
From Droogle. What did Droogle put?
Sephiroth.
What is that? Sephiroth. That is. Am I saying if that's right or not?
I don't know. I guess so. I have to
Yeah,
click
you have
the.
to say if it's correct.
That
or not.
is correct.
What?
The answer is Sephiroth. When Cloud fights against Sephiroth at the end of 7, he can either standard attack or he can use Omni Slash.
Yep.
If he just attacks,
You guys can literally see the light bulb go off
automatically
in my head.
wins.
Go back and watch. The
He-
light bulb goes off in my head. It's hilarious.
It is really funny because you can do the game at the lowest possible level. You can just hit him for any value of damage and you win the fight.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Dude, I was torn. I knew it was either going to be Sephiroth or the answer that I gave. So I got it
Yep.
wrong. I know I got it wrong.
What Chad
Okay.
guessed.
Chad?
It's up on screen.
Thornberry?
Tomberry, yeah.
Unfortunately, not a final boss. but
Rare.
I just guessed Ultimate. I was like, Ultimecia? I don't remember.
She has one of the highest health balls in 8, actually.
Mm.
Yeah, no, she's beefy.
And Shoop.
Mm.
I couldn't think of
I-
anyone though.
No, I said Ultimecia as well,
Have we
and that's
just got-
because towards
Hey,
the end,
Shoop!
it's scripted. You know when she starts talking about like the world is ending. Oh no.
Well,
They
that's
haven't-
scripted based on damage you've done.
Yeah, but I couldn't. Sephiroth. I knew it wasn't Necron because I know his HP, and I knew it
Yeah,
wasn't
his is 50,
you-
55,000.
55. Yeah, and Yu Yevon is 99,999.
Or 54,000.
But you said like in any Final Fantasy. You mean like just in any like Final Fantasy final boss instance?
Of every single Final Fantasy that they've ever made, the final, as in literal final boss fight,
Oh my god, we got rated.
Sephiroth has the lowest HP of any.
Oh, I think I get what you're saying. Out of any,
I think
of
you
the
probably
actual
got the
final-
wrong.
Hi,
Yeah, I
I
Raiders!
see.
We got
I
rated.
see what you're saying.
Hi, Raiders.
What's
Welcome.
up,
Jen!
Hello.
Hey, Rare, I think I need to tell you something that Jen said today in his stream.
Was John Roy talking smack again?
John Roy was talking
John
smack.
Ray.
He runs
John
his
Roy was
mouth,
talking
dude.
smack today in chat. Don't say
What'd
it.
he say?
All I'll say is you lost, Jen. I'm sorry. You lost.
He lost. Oh wait, he watched the video today. Wait, which one? Oh, the one you made, Tyan?
Jen was saying, I just hope Rare does worse than me in Jeopardy.
Did
But you
Jin do
didn't.
this?
You didn't. You did better than Jen.
I did better than Jin! Yay! And I haven't played a Final Fantasy game like the mainline game since I was like, I don't know, 17 or something. So
I'm looking
Rare
at the
wins.
wagers now. This is interesting.
it's been a long
I
time.
wasn't sure how hard to make that board
Hmm
because I didn't.
was-
I
that was a
knew
tricky
you had
one,
played
man.
all of them,
That was a tricky one.
and I didn't know
Ah.
Chad's knowledge.
I had a strong lead, man, and then I went in with a big bet with the 1669.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I, of course, it's a 7 question. So I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, for me, a lot of the board was very much focused on like gameplay type stuff, which is not my strength. My strength is music, story, characters, like things like that. So you can and you can see that in my answers. Like I did not know like any of the gameplay ones really.
I thought about putting some more character ones, but you guys have done quite heavy character and music focus the last two, so I thought I'd mix it up. and
No, it was
throw-
good.
You made a
Yeah,
hard
okay.
board.
This was cool, man.
This
is
was very cool. Chad and Rare, would you guys like to stick around? We're gonna have one
Yeah,
more
I'm down.
segment.
We're gonna do Moogle mailbox and stuff.
Yee, let's do it.
Yeah. But first, I do want to give a much bigger shout out to Jin coming in with a huge raid, absolutely massive raid of 101 viewers. Welcome all the raiders. This is Crystal Bears, a Final Fantasy talk show. I'm Drugal. We got Shoop, Easley, and special guests Rare and Chad all here today. Follow them all on their respective channels up on screen, of course. We've been talking a lot tonight about Final Fantasy XVI and our feelings on the game. We had a big debate on turn-based versus action combat and where we want the future of Final Fantasy to go. It's been a really great show tonight. So hit that follow button if you would like. We have anonymous follows and all that good stuff. So please hit that follow button. And everybody, please give some love to Jin, one of the all-time, one of the goats. Daddy Jin.
Thank you
John
for the
Wall.
follow.
Place
I
to
forgot
go
to
and
turn
hang
off
out.
my alerts, so I keep hearing Ridesy Shoe Puff anytime somebody follows. But thank you very much.
I remembered the mistake from last time when somebody redeemed my "not alone" command at the end, and I was sat there like, "Why am I hearing myself? What? Oh no!"
Oh no. Oh, Jin finished Crisis Core Reunion tonight.
Ooh.
Oh,
We
he
did
did.
a long stream actually. Jin
How'd
was
you
going
feel?
Ages.
Tell us what you thought about the ending, without spoilers, of course.
We did beat it a record 22 hours only.
See,
That
if
is a
Jin
record.
can beat it in 22 hours, then that is definitely an 18-hour game at the
He
most.
Jin,
didn't
did you get someone
cry.
else's game file at the end of there? Because surely yours was 220.
Jin is soulless, confirmed. He did not cry.
Some people don't have the emotional physical response, especially in front of an audience of people. There's nothing wrong with it. I cried, and I don't have too much of an emotional connection to the 7 universe as much as a lot of other people.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still, I think it's the music that made me
Yeah,
cry.
music, it's hard. Well, I hope you enjoyed it, even though you didn't cry, Jen. I hope you enjoyed it very much. We are going to move on to our final segment in the show. It is called the Moogle Mailbox. We got Drew the Moogle delivering our mail today. We have 7 letters in the mailbox right now, but the Twitch channel Points Redemption is active still and will be throughout this entire segment. So if you would like to submit your questions about anything Final Fantasy related for all 4 of us to answer, now is your opportunity. Take advantage of it. All right. Let me pull up the questions on the side here. All right. Our first question. Make sure it's okay. Okay. I like to preview them first just to make sure.
Yeah, in case we get a troll question.
If you can be any icon, I guess this specifically means 16, which one would you want to be?
Ooh.
Let's go to Chad first. Chad, we haven't heard enough from you tonight.
Oh,
Icon from
man.
16. Which one would you choose? The one that you want to be the most.
Oof, well,
From the ones that you know.
from the ones that I know, the ones that I've
Mhm.
seen. I gotta say, I think it'd be pretty interesting to be Phoenix. You know, I feel like Ifrit is a pretty obvious answer for a lot of
Yeah.
people, but Phoenix, you know, at least in that intro, that opening scene, it's very, very epic. You know, fire blast and all that crazy stuff. So it was very cool. I would go with Phoenix.
I'll say I would go with Phoenix as well. I think Phoenix is a beautiful icon. I love the theme of rebirth and all that. It's just connects with me, especially of the icons in 16. I think that one is the one I would choose. Rare, let's go to you. What do you think?
I haven't played 16, but I'm assuming there's a lot of old favorites.
Yep.
I would love to be Shiva because she's gorgeous in like every iteration of Final Fantasy.
Shoot.
No, is she not in there? Is she not in it?
Oh no, she is.
She's
is.
in there.
Okay.
She's in the
there.
trailers, so that doesn't spoil anything for you.
No,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah, Shiva's in there.
I'm assuming.
Shiva's my choice as well. She's beautiful. She's powerful. Oh God, I'd be gay for her. Like if I can't be her, I'll be gay for her. It's fine. I love Shiva.
And I'm already, so it makes it even easier for me.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I would absolutely want to be Shiva. But on top of that, like if I had to have like a second choice, I would say Bahamut. Bahamut, it just encapsulates every part of like what a summon is in the Final Fantasy series too.
Badass for sure. Easily, there can only be one.
Bahamut.
Hmm.
To the point, the only tattoo I want, only one I want, is a very large dragon that sits with its head over my shoulder, the wing down my arm, the other wing over the other shoulder, and the body wrapping down my back. It's the only tattoo I want because I've always been drawn to dragons, and this iteration of Bahamut, I'm not fond of some of the aesthetic part of it, but it is phenomenal. I can't say about it, but it's phenomenal.
Mm-hmm. Let's do another question coming in from Via. Any favorite Easter eggs or odes to previous Final Fantasy games did you find or like in 16? Of course, Rare hasn't played it yet. Chad isn't super duper far just yet, but there are lots of Easter eggs, without a doubt. I think I have a feeling the one Shoop's going to say, so I'll let you go first, Shoop.
I want to know which one you think it is because like right off the top of my head, I can't think of one. I can think of like one.
The whistle.
Oh yeah, I don't want to spoil that.
I'll just say the whistle.
Yeah, the whistle. That was a big one. But there was also oh man.
I think I know what one you're gonna say.
In Dalmekia, there's a little sign you can go by in the market,
Mm-hmm, yeah.
like for things that are for sale, and it says that they sell cactar needles, which is cool. But there's a hunt, and I don't want to spoil this. There's a hunt that references to a previous summon in the other games. The name of the hunt was really cool. That was probably my favorite Easter
That was
egg.
cool, and that was, yeah. Kilmore, said when I was going to bring up the VV Scarecrows. Those were really
The
neat.
VV Scarecrows were a really nice touch. That was my first Easter egg that I discovered in 16, and I was like, a VV! This is cute.
Another one that I thought was really neat that I think is probably an homage was the very first Dragoon you see in the game pops up on top of a tower and has the exact stance as Kain
As
from-
Kane
from
four.
Final Fantasy IV.
Aw.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It's
like the
also
box
the
art.
same
Like, yeah.
It's also the same stance that what's his face in 9 has Freya's.
Oh, Fratley.
Yeah, Fratley. Same stance he has at the top of the tower as well.
Easily, do you have any other ones?
I have 2. The hunt icon is the
Yeah,
first one from 12.
the infamous tomato.
It is the rogue tomato. And
Yeah,
the
the
other
tomato.
one, I'm not going to say specifically because it would be a spoiler,
Hmm.
but to do with the flowers at a certain scene, the way that they spin in the air. It's a
Huh.
homage to 8 specifically.
I think I know what you're talking
agreed with
about.
that,
Yeah.
we
I wasn't
thought it
sure if
a
that was
nod to 8.
intentional, but it looked like it was.
The
It might be.
colors are similar, the
Yeah.
wrapping around similar.
I said it when I
it's too
streamed it, and then I
similar.
watched Easley play that part, and he said the same thing. He was like, I feel like this has to be a reference to 8.
And Xerxes brought up a good point about that Dragoon in chat too. That very first Dragoon you encounter is voiced by Estinian's VA from Final Fantasy XIV, who of course is also
Interesting.
a Dragoon. So
That's
cool little nod there. Chad, has there been anything for you that has stuck out so far where you're like, ooh, this has got to be a reference?
Well, yeah, I mean, again, out of the little bit that I played, I've just been noticing kind of the more obvious things. But one of my favorite nods is the dun 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 that battle
Mhm.
theme when it comes in, because
Oh,
you really
yeah.
haven't heard that in a mainline Final Fantasy
Mm-hmm.
in like 10 years now or something like that.
Six,
10
the
longer
first
than
6
that.
all had that like da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Right,
and 9
right.
did too, because 9 of course was
Exactly.
a love
And then
letter.
Yeah.
never again since then. So it was really, really nice to see that. And then a little bit of a nod to 8's battle theme in one of the other songs.
Yeah.
I would say
Yes.
more than a little.
Yep.
God's sakes,
Yes.
that song
Pretty-
sometimes I
pretty
think
similar.
is "Don't Be Afraid."
Yeah,
It's like, it's
yeah. I
right
was like,
there.
immediately, I was almost to the point where I was like, kind of humming along with it, and I was like, I've never heard this song before. Wait a second, but I kind of already knew the kind of cadence it was going in. So
Yeah.
I really do appreciate the very early nods to the music, without even really it being about like this is an obvious reference. It's just kind of baked right in.
Yeah.
I just think it's cool that, of course, Chad Music noticed the music. Like,
Of
you have an
course.
ear for it, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
I'm always
that's
listening. I'm
obviously
always
your-
trying to find something.
Our
yeah,
next-
like that's something you would notice. So that's pretty cool.
Chad, listen to, whenever you get a chance, listen to Find the Flame. I'm not going to tell you what part of the game it's from because it's an incredible part and I don't want to spoil it for you. I know
Okay.
you're not there yet.
Right.
But listen on Spotify to Find the Flame just in the first second. Literally the first second of the song, listen to it and tell me that's not the like the trill. Is it from Seven? I think?
Seven, yeah. It specifically sounds a lot like Seven's, like intro.
It's
Yeah.
I'm like, wait a minute. I just listened to the first 5 seconds of Find the Flame on
Yeah.
Spotify. And tell me
They
that's not
know
from
that
Seven.
they put certain sounds in there, it'll trigger people. So that's kind of the idea. I love that kind of thing.
Eldest Ghostkill asks, what game is your Final Fantasy comfort game? The one that is your fuzzy blanket after a long day.
Oh.
Rare, let's go to you first.
So, as y'all know, my favorite Final Fantasy is 6, but I would say, like, since this question seems to be like, oh, comfort game, the Final Fantasy I played the most is definitely Crystal Chronicles. I played that game, like I said, more times I got fingers, toes, and lady bits, and it's an amazing game every time, and just the music's fantastic. It's beautiful. It's probably my, like, comfort game out of the series. Like, even though, like, 6 is my favorite Final Fantasy.
Mm-hmm. This one's a toss-up for me. I usually say 9. 9 is definitely my happy place. That world is the one I most want to return to typically, but right now I'm having a very, very strange itch to go back to the very depressing world that is Final Fantasy X, because it's not just depression, right? Like that's what we talked about earlier in the stream. Like 10's world is so somber and stuck in this cycle of death, but there's something so unique and refreshing about it. I guess it's the tropical atmosphere. I don't know. I love the dichotomy, the contrast of like this beautiful paradise world with everything else about that game that is just so sad and depressing. So it's comforting to me in a weird way. I don't know why. Those are my two. Easily.
Mine depends on exactly my mood. If I'm feeling depressed, it's 9. If I am feeling kind of sad and I just want to chill, but not depressed kind of sad, like day's been kind of crappy but not too bad, it's 7. And if I'm kind of energetic but I want to have a think what I'm doing, it's 8, because I like to throw different builds and do different things and change how the game is experienced for me. It just depends. It's always one of those 3. And I remember I had COVID a year and a half, something like that ago, and it really knocked me for it. I was off work for a month. I had antibiotics and everything, and I 100% completed 7, 8, 9, and 10, specifically 7, 8, and 9, while I was off.
Shoop.
I want to say 9, but not the game itself as a comfort, but rather the mini games. Whenever I was, hot and cold. Whenever I was feeling down or like it was gross out and I was sad or whatever, I would specifically have files set aside on like disc 3 where I have barely leveled up my chocobo that I could just spend an hour or two doing the entire chocobo hot and cold side quest, including the like hidden treasures, because that was my comfort. And that's why, for those of you who don't know, that's why I have a giant chocobo tattooed on my shoulder, is because of hot and cold, because of how much comfort it brings me. But the game entirely itself would be 10. It's a game that I can play mindlessly and just enjoy the music and the environments and the characters.
Yeah. And Chad, what about you?
To kind of play off that, like when you need a comfy, mindless Final Fantasy, I have to go with 7. And as like a little bonus, I'm gonna throw in Tactics, just because Tactics is like the music, the look of these little characters, and it is a little bit more heady, but for me, I could sit and play that game on stream or off stream for literally the entire day and not really feel like too much time has passed. It is like, I don't know if you really call it that comfort, but it's definitely like a happy place. For sure.
Okay. So the next one is here. Make sure it's good. We're good. This one comes from Xerxes, who said, what summon from other games would you love to see in the graphics, style, quality of 16? Diablos.
Yep, Diablos.
Drew didn't even breathe.
Yep, it's Diablos.
Diablos.
100%.
Diablos is so badass, I swear. And that it's to this day, that animation, that attack is so cool. I don't know
Literally
what it is.
Grabs the ball and
the momentum of it, the
Big
way it's
ball
like
from the sky.
stretching, and then it just I love it. It's so good. They did such a good job with that animation, especially considering when that game came out. So cool.
And when he disappears, the way he just disappears into the bats.
The bats, yeah. Like what the hell, dude? They pulled that off so well in that game. So yeah, my answer is definitely Diablos. If I'm like just gut reaction. Chad, let's go you first.
Knights of the Round.
Ooh.
Which, you know, I mean, without too much spoilering, there is a very, very cool representation of Knights in the Round in other Final Fantasy media. But to just see a full-on, like, the ones from 7 done in 16, that would be pretty cool.
Good news. I mean, I would hope that they're going to do it eventually in 7 Rebirth or Part 3. And I don't know how the hell they're going to. How are they going to do it? How are they going to pull that off? I have no idea. It's going to be good.
I reckon it'd just be you just summon literally all of the knights, and they all just attack for you. It'd just be like a, I don't know.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot. I don't know how they're going to do that, but hopefully they pull
like
it off.
a one-time encounter.
I don't know why, but I think of like the Lion King during like the I Just Can't Wait to Be King song, where like Zazu's getting trampled by all these animals and then trampled again.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Rare, I know you don't know the summons in 16, so you have an opportunity here to guess one that's already in it, or maybe one that's not.
Yeah, there's 2 summons that I just am obsessed with. Yojimbo's one of them. And I just love the idea of like your party like in like peril danger, and Yojimbo's like, you need to fess up some funds if I'm gonna help you. So I'm like obsessed with him.
And he's got an adorable doggo.
Modern take of Yojimbo. I don't know if it's in 16. I haven't played 16 yet, but another one would be cool, even though like the graphics in 10 are still like good. I think Anima would be really cool to see, just like all the way done.
That'd be terrifying.
Especially how dark the game is.
It's iconic and it's terrifying. Like I remember playing it, I don't know, I think I was like 15, 16, but I was still like, oh my god, like it stuck with me. So I think that'd be cool to see redone, even though like I said, it still looks good. Like it's not like it's, you know, pixel or anything. But
imagine how they'd animate Oblivion.
I'm honestly surprised you didn't say Carbuncle.
Oh, because I like Carbuncle.
Yeah, well, because it's funny. I was like, shoot, Rare's gonna choose one that I want because I have a choice between 2 as well, and one of them is Carbuncle.
We technically already have Carbuncle in 7 Remake, which is really good graphics, so we kind of got it.
I don't remember what it looks like. I didn't even remember.
It's one of the mini summons. It's not like a big summon. It's one that can like tag with you. Like
no, I want to see it. I want to see it in 16 graphics. I want to see that ruby light in full crazy animation. But I want to see what Carbuncle would look like if it wasn't cutesy. As weird as that sounds.
Final Fantasy 15 terrified me to my core.
But the other one.
Huge forehead.
The big one that I think I would really want to see is from 8, and it's Siren, because we get sexy Shiva over and over and over again, but Siren, y'all know that in the remaster they added clothing to her.
So you want pre-clothing?
They had to. They had to. Yeah.
They well, it's because I think it's her bottoms.
Yeah, but it looks like a bush.
But I want another sexy, strong female summon, and we get Shiva time and time again, and she's amazing. But like they kind of forgot about Siren. I feel like, you know what I mean? I don't know why they don't bring her back.
Garuda is weirdly sexy.
She is.
Are
we at this point now?
Should I not have said that?
Oh no, I think we all have a bird fetish after seeing Garuda. Like Benedict is freaking hot.
We're at this
Y'all
point.
didn't before? What?
I didn't think birds were real, but now after seeing Garuda.
Easily, you're last.
So straight away is Diablos. Same reasons as you. Diablos is my favorite summon of any game. However, I would also love to see Alexander as well.
My second favorite.
How they would animate that, just the sheer size they would have to make him as well.
Yeah.
Surprised
which would have worked so well for 16.
Nobody said Pandemona, the big suck from Final Fantasy VIII.
Gotta love the big suck. We could take this in different directions, but I'm going to move on as quickly as possible.
It's a vacuum. It's literally summoning a vacuum. It's a big suck.
Another one from Xerxes came with 2 questions. Obviously, we can't go back to the old days of new Final Fantasy games coming out every year or every other year. What would you prefer for a typical amount of time to have between a mainline Final Fantasy title as we move forward with the series? So I kind of touched on this earlier. Here's the thing, it cannot be at the detriment of the quality of the game. Like, I want them to take as long as they want if that's what they need. No crunch, no, sacrificing quality. Definitely don't want that ever. But I do think if they were to get into a good cadence of 3 different studios taking their turns, you could technically have each studio taking 6 to 9 years on a Final Fantasy and still have them come out every 3 years, even if they did take that long. So I think that would be my preference. I think if they could get it down to like every 3 years, I think even if each studio did wildly different versions of what they feel Final Fantasy should be, I don't think anybody would be too heartbroken because it wouldn't be that long of a wait for the next one.
I'd agree with 2 to 3 years is fine. But I also don't want to be in the old folks' home playing Final Fantasy 19. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to be in the home, like, trying to play on my PlayStation 7 just to play before like Final Fantasy 20 even comes out. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want there to be a decent time period where it's like, okay, they're not taking too long. I think they took too long, in my personal opinion, between 15 and 16. Big time.
Yeah, it was about 7 years. And that's what we talked about on the last show, is if we were all joking about Final Fantasy XXX, guess what? If it's 7 years per Final Fantasy, that's another 100 years, literally 98 years until we get the Final Fantasy XXX. So I don't think we need to think about that right now. Easily.
I'm gonna try and hold on for that long, dude.
Easily. What do you think? What's a good?
I personally would like once every 3 years, maybe 5 at a long push. But truthfully, if they release one every year and it's phenomenal, or they release one every 5 years and it's phenomenal, I don't really care. As long as the product they release and give to us is something that leaves me with a memory that will last. That's all I truly care for. If it means I have to wait like this one is, so be it. Just give me something phenomenal in the middle as well that may be small. Just something. You got enough teams working, give us something.
Rare, what do you think?
I think it'd be nice to have about 2 mainline Final Fantasies per console life cycle.
Yeah.
So I think that's usually around like 6-7 years. So I think like 3.5 years would be like the sweet spot, where it's like it doesn't feel so far away. Because honestly, like, if you were to ask me when I think Final Fantasy 17 will come out, I'll be like, maybe in like a decade. Like, and it's not their first time they're doing this with like you guys remember Final Fantasy 13 Versus, how that turned out. Like, there's a knack for delays sometimes. Even honestly, every 5 years, I think would be a good compromise, where it's like, it's not like back to back. You could still take time to like make something special. But yeah, like in a perfect world, I think 3.5 years, like 2 a console life cycle would be perfect.
Yeah. So we're all kind of on the same page. You too, Chad?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I think when it comes to refining a game, it's important to not, talk too much about a game before it's actually finalized, before the development team is final, before they have a plan, and, avoid the same problem with Final Fantasy 15. Or even, I want to say, and this might be a hot take, but the Kingdom Hearts franchise has kind of gone a little crazy with its ever-present like arching cycles, while they also have like long years in between mainline games. I really didn't want to be 30 years old by the time of Kingdom Hearts 3, but that's exactly what ended up happening.
15 years between 2 and 3?
Yep.
About,
2006, and then
2020,
19,
yeah.
Literally look at the graphics, you can tell. That's the
Yeah.
thing.
That exactly. But when it comes to keeping me as a fan, things are going to change. And I think that it's important that if you're going to have a fan base, if you're going to have a franchise, that you should maintain it on a way that doesn't require people to just like hope that the next one is good in like a decade,
I think
Yeah.
that's one thing I like about the Final Fantasy series is that they have all taken into consideration that we're like the fan base itself is mostly adults at this point,
Yes, at this point, yeah.
which I like that they've taken that into consideration.
We have not finished Final Fantasy 16 to respond in chat, and our next question is actually related to that to a certain extent. We're going to do our best to answer it here. Ish asked, do you feel the Final Fantasy 16 team delivered a full, complete story game? We haven't finished the story. So, can't say for sure. All I'll say is right now, 85% of the way in the game, there are some major story holes that I really hope they address. And I'm fearful that they won't. That's all I'll say.
I can't answer that. I haven't finished it.
Yeah.
I'm on the same kind of board. Obviously, I haven't finished either. I feel like it's kind of a bit of a mess without reading through all the lore properly, and it might be complete, but it's gonna leave holes unless you're fully tracking everything.
Yeah. And Zarkano, I'm not going to say what, obviously. I don't want to spoil it for anybody. It's nothing like that I would say would like is going to completely ruin the game. Don't get me wrong. When I say major story holes, I just feel like there's major gaps that are yet to be filled in, and I'm really hoping they fill those in. But I really feel like they're not going to at this point. So it is what it is. You know, it's still a complete story, I guess, in that it has like a beginning, a middle, and the end, and I'm sure it'll have its climax that resolves the main story and gives us closure for our main characters. But there's certain things that we'll see if they fill in for me. Let's see. Next, number 7, and we got 9 so far. Another one from Ish the Dish. Would you like a game that uses both mainline styles, parts that do action as well as parts that do turn-based, done well, of course? I mean, I already talked about this. I think that's what 7 Remake is. Yeah.
The hybrid type.
I think it's the way of the future. The way of the future.
I think it's the best format they've personally, in my opinion, they have done.
Yeah, it's my favorite combat system so far in the series.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I would love for them to continue that direction and refine it. I don't think 7 Remake is perfect, but I do think that the base concept of what they were going for is really great. And I think if expanded upon, they've got a way to hook a large audience, which I think would be great. You guys have any opinions on that? Chad, Rare?
I was going to say, speaking of that, I think when you go back to 7 Remake, you will find it better now that you've done 16 to where you have.
I'm not
I
allowed
hope
to talk
so,
about this.
because no, you're not. Because I struggled so hard through 7 Remake. I played it when it first came out, long before I started streaming, and I struggled so hard, and I had so much resentment towards that game because I was like, this is just not. I also didn't pay any attention to the tutorials, so that's on me. But like, I spent the whole game running out of ethers, not knowing that like rolling around on the ground doesn't charge your ETB, so then I couldn't perform anything, and all I could do was just run in circles like an idiot. And I was like, okay, well, this is clearly just detracting from the story for me, because every time I get into a fight, I'm like, God, why? Like, so I'll have to play it again and actually like pay attention to how the controls work. But yeah, so I have no comment on this question.
Rare, any comments?
Yeah, I don't like action. I'm bad at video games. Give me
Me too.
No, I'm biased. Like, it's purely my opinion. I don't think one's better than the other, but
yeah, that's totally fine.
Yeah, I like turn-based. I like something that I can think about. I love, if you want to like get where I'm coming from, I love 12's like, you know, battle style gameplay, because it's like something you could optimize and make automatic. I love that. A lot of people hate it, you know, but I'm like, oh, I feel so smart. Like, the game can play itself, and I can just go through the story, like, and I can get combos and blah blah blah. Like, you know, I love that. So turn-based definitely makes me feel smarter. I get to be a little bit more tactical, whereas action, like, you know, my fingers aren't as, you know, so you got to like learn stuff.
Do you guys feel like you're not as good at video games as you used to be?
I feel like I was better at it as a kid. Yeah. That's, you know what, I want to kind of touch on this. Like, I know you were saying my fingers aren't as, I was going to say nimble, because like, and I talk about this a lot. I have arthritis, and I found that I do struggle like halfway through a big like boss fight or something. I'm like, all right, well, my hands hurt. My hands should not have to hurt to feel like I accomplished something. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Chad, you didn't get to be a part of our action versus turn-based discussion tonight, so now's your opportunity to fall on one side or the other, or both.
Yeah, I'm kind of heavily both. I definitely grew up mostly on action games. I would say I got more into the RPG/JRPG scene like over the last couple of years. So I'm really, really having more of a deep appreciation for turn-based games now than I did back then. But seeing them get together in this way, I think Kingdom Hearts like set the standard, and it's cool. It's cool to see it progress. I really would like to see a mainline turn-based Final Fantasy though.
It would be really cool in today's day to see like what that means, right? What does
What does that
turn-based
mean exactly?
now?
After all of these games, after all Kingdom Hearts, like what would that look like for them to just go full on turn-based and require everybody who's still a fan, all the new people, all these Kingdom Hearts people, to apply what they've learned to this?
It would be an incredibly risky endeavor, but
Yeah,
that's
I
why it
know.
would be really exciting to see happen. I agree with you. I'm with you there. All right, number 8. Let's make sure we're good here. Oh God, this will be a quick one. How do you pronounce bagel? Well, you guys know how I pronounce it now. Bagel. Easily.
Bagel?
Then
Is
like
there other
the
ways to
food?
pronounce it?
Bagel.
Bagel,
Bagel.
Some people say bagel. I say bagel.
I say
bagel,
but
like
everyone in the
BE.
UK that I know of says bagel.
Bagel. It's a bagel. Wait, Drew, how do you say it?
I say more like bagel.
Really?
Bagel?
No, not like bagel, like
I'm
bagel.
not taking you home to my Jewish family.
Bagel. Bagel. More like it's an E almost, like bagel.
Bagel. Like you're
Bagel?
begging?
Yeah, kind of.
Bagel?
Yeah. Bagel. Sorry, I'm an
Oh,
idiot.
big-
All right.
How do
I
you say
understand-
cream cheese?
Cream cheese?
I don't know.
I
Bagel.
understand bagel more because it like could be bag L. but-
Bagel.
Bag L.
Does Jin
Bagel.
say bagel?
What about
But-
bagel?
Yeah,
Bagel.
how Shoop spelled it. Bagel. That's how I've always
Bagel.
Bagel.
Bagel. Yeah.
Bagel.
Bagel.
This is so stupid. Final
Bagel.
question.
No, this is the best question we've had so far. I'm
Final
serious right
question
now.
comes in from Ray. I know you have some time between each Final Fantasy game. I have found some gems also from Square Enix. How would you feel about a different game from Square in between each Final Fantasy release? I would say they already do that to a certain extent, right? I think Dragon Quest is the obvious series that a lot of people
Nier
jump
Autom-
to.
the Nier Automata and Nier.
Yeah.
They're Square Enix games.
Kingdom
Does
Hearts.
Ray mean like more like Final Fantasy side games? I'm thinking like Dirge of Cerberus, Crystal Chronicles, Tactics, like
It might mean that,
Mystic
yeah.
Quest, things like that.
because I honestly don't, and I could be wrong, but I can't recall any like Final Fantasy side games lately. Maybe like I said, maybe I haven't been paying attention to it.
They had
I don't think I
Stranger
have
of
them.
Paradise.
Yeah,
oh
that
yeah,
was kinda
Stranger of
cool.
Paradise. That'd be one.
Mm-hmm.
Would you
Um,
count? I feel like Crisis Core kind of counts in like almost mainline. I guess not. I guess it's not technically a mainline game.
It's a part of the 7 compilation.
I think Sarkano makes a great point where he says they publish a lot of games, but they don't develop as much.
That's
Right.
true. But I mean, Forspoken was definitely, as Neku was talking about Forspoken, that's definitely an attempt at something that's not Final Fantasy,
Mhm.
which, you know, obviously got mixed results. But even going back, because if you really think about it, around the time of like Final Fantasy IX, they were just pumping out. Chrono Cross came out immediately after or before Final Fantasy IX. Threads of Fate was another like underrated Squaresoft title around that time. Like they were releasing games that weren't Final Fantasy very, very frequently in
Yeah, I
that
mean,
era. And
Think
I
of
think
how
that
lucky we were back then.
that's the thing. We really did have that kind of time period for a while where we had Parasite Eve, we had Xenogears, we had a lot of Square games that were not Final Fantasy.
Let's rag them up.
But
You got
also
7,
look at the
8,
cost of
9.
games.
You got 7, 8, 9, 10. Chrono Cross, the Xenogears, Saga Frontier, if you want to count that.
Right.
All that in the span of 4 years, from 1997 to 2001. And there's probably other ones I'm not even talking about yet either. But like that's
Star Ocean.
insane. Like
Star Ocean. Oh, I wanna get
I
my
never
game.
played Star
was Star
Ocean.
Ocean Square Enix? I didn't think, or
That's
Squaresoft.
Enix.
It
That's
is-
just technically
It was just Enix. Yeah. So at the time it was
found-
just Squaresoft.
I found an old pamphlet when Drew and I were like packing up my house. I found an old inside game case thing that came with Final Fantasy X too, and it had a little thing that you could mail in, and it was like mail in to win a game, and it has all these check boxes of all these games you could play, and it's like which Square Enix games you played, and Star Ocean was on there, and I'm looking at this whole list, and I'm like, God, there's so many Square Enix games that I haven't played yet, honestly, that I'd like to
Mhm.
play someday.
Mhm.
Hi, kitty. Rare
Hi,
has a cat.
kitty.
Hello. The smushy
He's
face
super
kitty.
happy to be here.
I know the gray one. Which one is that?
Marcus.
Marcus. Hi, Marcus.
Well, that is the end of our Moogle mailbox. 9 questions. Thank you so much, you guys. Don't forget, you can always submit these throughout our show, but we are going to end it there. That is the end of this episode of Crystal Bears. I want to take another opportunity first to thank Rare, Gangster, and Chad Music for joining us tonight for this episode. Everybody, please, at the very, very least, go check out their channels, but strongly recommend that you give them the follows. Let me actually update my stream title right now to include Chad's name in there. That way you guys can just click on the stream title. I should say it now. All of them are there. You can follow them literally from the stream title. And that includes Easily and Shoop as well. The host of this show with me every month, every Thursday, first Thursday, I should say, of every month. We're here with Crystal Bears. This will go up on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on YouTube, all the different services. This will go up either tomorrow or Saturday for you guys to check out if you missed any part of it. I really hope that you guys can subscribe to any of those services. We really appreciate that. And if you could, leave us a review as well, especially if it's on a podcast service. Leave us a review. Those do help in generating exposure for podcasts. It's a big deal.
But
Any
thank you both, Rare and Chad.
yes.
Thank you both.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank
Yeah,
Thank you for
seriously,
having
thank you.
us. This was
It's a
so
lot of
fun,
fun.
and I appreciate y'all working with me and being. I felt like in the know. Felt like a really nice collab to do. No stress.
Yeah.
So I
I'm sorry that
appreciate
any
it.
16 discussion was kind of tough
Oh
for
no,
you to jump in
don't
on.
worry
but-
about it. No, I want to pick it up now, but I'm like, oh, $70, but then I can be included in the 16 discussions.
Put it on a wish list, you know?
I know, right? I'll add it to my throne. But yeah, everyone, please drop a follow to Druggle, Shoop, and Easily. I've never been on Easily stream, but they seem really cool too. I have been on Drew's streams and Shoop's, and very talented streamers. So if anyone's here from my community, give them some love, give them some sugar. And
For
thank you
those
for
of you who
having
don't
me.
know, if you guys are really into Final Fantasy IX or just into speedrunning in general, Easily is number 12 in the entire world as of right now. He's going for top 10.
13 now.
13!
Oh no!
Spike put in his one from a year ago.
Spike
And
Vegeta did.
He
for
put in
the-
a run from a
Oh.
year ago, and it was the 6th best time. So we bopped everyone. But if I get top 10, I bop Grim and Cap both out of top 10.
Ooh.
Your poor friends.
I
Yep,
know,
yep.
Easily before I forget. But yeah, I don't
Thank
usually
you.
get an opportunity to talk about Final Fantasy stuff too, because I don't stream JRPGs, but I love them and I grew up with them. So this was really cool to do and be able to talk about that stuff.
Yeah, since you
people
played the entire
enjoy it.
series and you obviously really love the early days of Final Fantasy, it was perfect to have you on tonight to talk about the history of the combat systems and all that. And I'm sure we'll continue talking about that every month as we while we digest 16, because we're very fresh on it right now. I'm sure our opinions might change on it. I saw B say that earlier in the night, that she sat on the game a little bit now and her feelings on it might have changed a little bit. I'm not sure for the better or for the worst, but it's true. You got to digest these games and give them time, and your opinions might change on them. So we'll have to see how things go. Thank you so much, Draco, and thank you to everybody in chat for being here, for the compliments, for the supports. I saw some gifted subs come in from a first-time chatter. Got a huge raid from Jin Ray tonight. That was amazing. And if you guys want to be a part of this community of Crystal Bears, even when the shows are not live, discord.gg/Drupal. We have a dedicated category for Crystal Bears. You can literally choose to only be in that category if you want. There is an onboarding thing at the beginning. You can choose if you just want Crystal Bears channels, Drupal channels, or both. And we have the dedicated segments like Question of the Month on there. Oh my God, another 5 gifted. Thank you so much, Self-Harmonize, for the 5 gifted subs. That means a lot. Thank you.
Keeper got one.
Yeah, I was gonna say, speaking of Keeper, he gets
Speaking
one.
of Keeper.
And I will say also one last plug. It is your last chance to give out your experience, you guys.
Ooh,
You're
Chad,
allowed to
go.
do 25, 50, and 100. You can do one of each to either
Oh.
Drugel, Risey Shoepuff, or Easily. Before we go into our experience screen, now is your last chance to give it out.
Also,
It does force us to level up.
it does. I do want to say really quick before we wrap up and you guys get to see this incredible thing that Drew made. Drew has worked so hard on this podcast. He recreated his entire studio to make it all Final Fantasy themed, from the gunblade hanging behind him to the picture hanging behind him with Final Fantasy themes, to where we can change the background and the background of his studio, even down to the little things on the shelves. You can see right below Rare's camera, there's a little Freya, a little Yuna. I
They've
mean,
been changing through the stream.
yeah, it's really incredible what Drew has technically put together for all of us to have this little Final Fantasy room.
I love doing it.
Yeah, and down to what you guys are about to see, which are end credits. He designed all this as well, so it's really, you've done incredible work.
If I can say, and I know that Drew's probably sat there like, please stop, but if there's one streamer that I've looked up to since I started, it was Drupal, because the work he puts into this stream. If you guys see at any other point, the effects, the stuff that goes in it, it's not all chaos. It is chill, but there is the opportunity for incredible chaos done fantastically. He does this work himself, and he works a very busy full-time job and has kids to look after. The man doesn't, I swear he doesn't sleep.
I can say that yes, he does not sleep.
As much as I should. It's true. But no, that's stop it now, all of you. All right, thank you again, everybody. Give the follows easily, Shoop, Rare, Chad, and we'll see you throughout the weeks with Final Fantasy and Variety Gaming. We're all here on Twitch, and we hope to see you very soon, and hopefully next month as well. Our next episode of Crystal Bearers. I like saying bearers because I need to emphasize that we're not bears.
Berenstein Bearers.
Our next episode is episode 4 on September 7th. So mark your calendars, and we hope to see you then. Until next time, take care, and as always, don't forget to level up, you guys. Bye, everybody!